Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Snap Judgments. It is episode 55, which is about half of the temperature in New York right now. We are joined today, as you can tell, I am not Roy, so I am joined today by my friend and yours, GunnyT. How you doing, Gunny?
I'm doing fantastic, Aaron. How about yourself?
I'm great. I really hope a hurricane comes to blow you away in North Carolina because it's way too nice where you are.
We've been having great weather compared to you guys.
Yeah, I'm a hater. Before I fly to North Carolina and get beat up by you, let's move on to our wonderful guests. Who are our guests, Gunny?
Oh, we have two fantastic guests for us today. Returning podcaster with us here, FaThorNewman. FaThorNewman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's exciting to be here. This is going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We love having you on. If our viewers and our listeners were interested in following you, where could they find you at?
So YouTube is probably the most consistent place. Just FaThorNewman on YouTube. I also stream 3 or 4 times a week because it's summer and I'm a teacher on Twitch. Also FaThorNewman there. And Twitter/X, if you want to find me there. I'm also FaThorNewman there too. Weird.
Are you doing anything special with Snap Judgments for any of your streams?
Oh yeah, I'm part of the stream team. That's a good plug right there. This
professionals.
I know this is great. Actually, so this posts on Saturday. So when this posts, if you're listening, you could just pause this and then go watch me on Twitch playing the best decks brought up by Snap Judgments over the past week. Yeah, and I'm doing that tomorrow as well. So look forward to a video.
The stream team is such an awesome thing. I'm really happy when Aaron put that together with because that's the one thing I know as a watcher of the Snap Judgments every day. I wanted to see those decks in action. So good job, Glazer. I really appreciate that. Now to our second awesome guest that we have, JJROLK. How are you doing today?
What's up, guys? We're doing great. It's pretty hot here in Michigan today, but we're surviving, and life is good.
All right, same question to you. If our
I just realized, wait, we have something important to say. This is, dear viewers and listeners, you are missing out on the single best episode of facial hair in Snap Judgments ever. I just looked at Newman and JJ, and I was like, "Fuck." It's a beautiful day here in New York. All of a sudden, it just got another 5 degrees hotter.
Pulse, I thought you did this intentionally. I was appreciating Fathor over there, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go a little more wax in it if I would have known. So.
JJ, I also just realized we're both in Michigan right now.
Oh,
so,
all right.
Booyah.
Yeah, I'll hit you up off 3 and we'll figure something out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. All right, and if our awesome viewers/listeners wanted to become your awesome viewer/listener, where could they find you, JJ?
Yeah, same kind of deal. Twitch is my primary right now, so twitch.tv/JJROLK. I just started a TikTok, which got boosted, and I got a bunch of followers. I don't even know what to do with it. I don't
think you're supposed to dance.
Any views?
You're supposed to dance.
No. Are we allowed to say
such
that?
A boomer. I tell you what, I'm just trying to make it happen. And so yeah, JJROLK, you can give me a follow there. And I got a X if I really don't use that or whatever. So I just
how many followers on TikToks did your boost get you?
I got over 60,000.
Yeah, I'm at 40,000, and no one fucking watches any of the videos. It is the biggest waste of time. It's like, ooh, look at that!
I don't know. I have one video that has 675,000 views, and the rest are nothing. So I don't know what to go. I don't know what to do with that.
Yes, this is not the. It was a cute idea. Thank you.
Just make YouTube shorts. It's all good.
All right, I love that idea. Yeah.
All right. If you would like to follow us, I'm actually only going to really plug one thing. Hopefully you know about the YouTube if you're here. If you're brand freaking new, I do 7 videos a week. This is one of the 7. So if you like Marvel Snap, if you love Marvel Snap as much as we do, you should, sorry, I'm just trolling people at this point. Check us out. I think you'll enjoy the content. We get more brand new decks than everyone, although I think KM is mad at me because all of a sudden he's releasing 6 deck videos, and I'm like, dude, it's my thing. It's my thing.
That's
so
my thing.
Whatever. I guess
that was a good video, by the way. I really enjoyed that video.
Yeah, me too. But he's swerving in my lane, so
yeah, I thought the same thing.
You're gonna have to back that dump truck up. All right. So either which way,
real quick, you know. My favorite part about that video is what he called it, or what he said was weird decks I have lost to.
Yeah, that's fair. It's very fair. Okay. Neither here nor there. All right. The thing I want to plug, and God, I hope this is out before then, is on Sunday on It's Guess Gaming's Twitch stream. What's happening, Gunny?
Oh man, we are finally doing our season 2 championship, and this is going to be an amazing stream. So we have our top 4. We got Jimmy Dickens, we got Bishkana, we've got LP Hovercraft, and Butt on the for the top 4. So
And
I had to say that. I was going to say Butt Squad, but he just goes by Butt everywhere. But man, it's fantastic gamers. I've talked to Butt on the side some. He's a fantastic gamer. I don't know too much about Jimmy, but I know Hovercraft has been playing for a while. And Bish kind of came out of nowhere for us. He has been performing really well in a few of our King of the Hill events. He won one of the draft events. He also won one of my new format all-in events. So Two Ties has him pegged for the winner of this whole thing, just because of how adaptable he has been. But it's going to be great. So how we're going to do the stream is we're going to stream both of the semifinal games straight into the finals match. So it should be actually a pretty short stream, pretty easy to grab. Should be at 12 Eastern Standard Time on Sunday.
So come join us Sunday for a nooner.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't actually delete all the extra stuff I wanted to here. This is Makkari, and here are my notes about Makkari for, tomorrow's video or yesterday's video, depending on when it comes up. But whatever. Makkari is a 3/4. She will be 6,000 tokens, Series 5, because everything is, because she sure shouldn't be. After your turn, run from your hand to a random location if possible. So a free 4 power anytime you draw her. What do we think of Makkari? Let's start with Newman here.
I like her a lot. I think you said it in today's video. If you like Sandman, like this is it's a good card for that kind of deck. It's not a good card in a variety of ways, but it's free power, and I kind of like it. Maybe a little too much.
JJ?
Yeah, these cards are tough for me because I try super hard and I force these things to work. And it's kind of mid, in my opinion, but I'm doing some fun things with it. I really wanted to bring my deck where it's run, jump, fly. It's got like Angel and Baku, Proxima, and this. And it's just about not playing cards and them all coming from your hand at the end. It makes some pretty great clips, but I mean, you can just get wrecked playing into like Tribunal or something that's just all combo based. So I think the problem with this card is the randomness of the location it targets. I think it had some viability to like lowest power or something else that might help, or highest power or something like that, but I feel like it's jumping into bad locations too often. And honestly, the first like 3 games I played, I got 2 bar with no names, and she jumped into it. It was like you can't make this stuff up, right?
That's what you get.
Yeah.
Don't have fun with new cards.
Right. That's how it felt. It was just like, okay.
So in Infinite, this has nothing to do with Makkari, but I'm like -7. I'm ranked like 2,000 right now, and I'm -17 in cubes in the Infinite leaderboard this season, and it's all Cersei. Like all of my I went and looked at all of my negative cubes, and it's all Cersei. Cersei hates me. Like, I don't know why, but she's like never nice to. She's just like, ha ha. Oh, your opponent filled their side of the board? Have a hobgoblin. Like, every game, it's something different, stupid. Like that card, like I give up. That card just hates me. I don't care what the math says. So I feel like Makkari is your mortal enemy, and Cersei is mine. Gunny?
So I'm always bringing a unique perspective here because I'm one of the few that are like token and resource limited. So I have to pick and choose the cards that I want to get. And Makkari, for one thing, I do have to say I've been playing a lot of Clog lately, and this card has been working wonders for me when it comes out of my opponent's hand.
Did you just say I'm resource limited, but I still bought Makkari? You're bad at decisions.
You heard me wrong. It's great when my opponent has a Makkari come out of their hand into a location.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A 3/4, like you eat up one of your spots with a 3/4. Go for it, man. But this is one of the ones I skipped on, and specifically why is it doesn't create a deck, right? So I have to be very choosy on my cards. I generally pick something that's going to either advance an archetype that I already like, which just doesn't necessarily fit in because I don't play a whole lot of Surfer, or create some kind of new archetype, such as like Namora. I didn't pick up Namora either, but like that is an example of a deck that would, that a card that could create a deck. And Makkari just doesn't do that. So it's kind of a good to have, and not necessarily a need to have.
I like Makkari a lot. No one should buy him unless you're like unless you're like an Uber whale. If you're an Uber whale and get most of the cards, go feel free. Have fun. But like, I'm having a blast with this card. It's made a new archetype that I like, or two. But like, it's not good. It's just really, really fun and stupid. If this had just Proxima's ability, it would be infinitely better, right? Like Proxima's like lowest cost location, and I would bet almost anything that it's either going to be a 3/5 or get that, because you know what I'm not seeing a lot of, like, and on the Infinite leaderboard is where people wail out and get everything. I'm not seeing a lot of Makkari decks, and if I'm not seeing a lot of Makkari decks, people aren't buying a lot of Makkari. People aren't buying a lot of Makkari, they go and buff it. I don't think they're going to buff it enough that you need to buy it right now, but I would be shocked if this doesn't get either a point of power or the Proxima treatment.
Yeah,
Also
this is a great example of a card that should have come out as a Series 4.
I mean, yes, but also you're still one series too high.
True.
Yeah.
But they'll never do that because that's just like literally spending time on R&D to lose money, right? So like they're not going to do that. Still, please don't buy Makkari. But if you happen to like be in love with this card, like you'll have fun with it. I think that's a reasonable like balance for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on because there's only so much I know and can talk about Makkari. What we're doing today is I picked 4 decks because none of them are actually mine. I just went around and found the 4 weirdest decks I liked right now. And all of our guests and Gunny, who's sort of, I don't even know how to count him anymore, picked 2 decks. So we have 10 decks alphabetically. Poor Roy is sitting there doing like whatever union training thing. Like, I used to have a podcast. But in the meantime, we've got 10 decks. We're going to talk about them one by one, and then we're going to rank them, and those will be our top 10 sleeper decks. So the decks are Butts the Combo, and that's from me via butt. It came through my butt. And then we've got Clog and Affliction, which also came through Gunny's butt. That's Gunny's deck, like he personally made that. The Dokken Slayer, because it sort of looks like the old Vampire Slayer decks. That's why I named it that. That is from JJROLK. Do you want to build a Sandman, which wins best deck name, also from JJROLK. These are alphabetical. .Geo's Wolfhawk from me via obviously .geo. I have a point I want to make about that deck because it sparked controversy earlier today.
I've seen that controversy.
Anyone has missed the social medias. I have thoughts. We'll get there. So patience. All right. You got to make him listen to more of the episode, right? Then we've got a Makkari Surfer, which is me via Snap Variants. I love Snap Variants. Awesome person. If you don't know, please follow them. And then we've got a Move from GunnyT. I don't know what to call it. It was just like a move deck.
Just Move.
And then Pixie Thors from FaThorNewman, which is his favorite deck. Not Sandman, because FaThorNewman is a whore. And then we've got Safety Sandman from Newman via, obviously, Safety Blade. And finally, Still Ballin', which is a deck that one of guests' viewers made, and then I ran into him on whose stream? Someone's stream earlier. Oh, Doug Pie's stream earlier, and was like, by the way, I shared your deck today. I was like, oh, shit. But I've got a 80+% win rate deck. And
it's a cool deck.
With like
I played it.
a bajillion and 1 cubes. I love that deck. Like, I stopped playing the Geo Bounce deck for it, which is like, wow. But those are the only 3 decks I'm playing right now. I have not actually played the combo. Anything to say about the selection of decks before we get to our first one? Anyway.
No, I'm interested just to dive into these decks in general. I love off-meta decks. It's just fun. Like, sometimes you just get bored. Like, I want to play something that's still good, but something new.
I don't play meta decks.
Yeah,
I mean, I
have a
test
serious
them.
problem. I can't play the same thing. It's a ADHD type thing where it's like I gotta mix it up. I gotta try to push something.
We're all gonna.
That's the other thing about this stream that's so good. It's the ADHD stream.
It is.
Heck yes.
Gregor and Flash are listening. Like, fuck, we weren't invited.
Hey, I will add really quick.
I was gonna invite them, but then I got sidetracked.
Yeah.
Squirrels, man, everywhere. Dang it. I got my deck from Gnome, who recommended that I play it, just so that it doesn't seem like I made an amazing deck, but anything that Gnome recommends usually goes really well for me. So thanks, Gnome.
Gnome, who's on the podcast last week. All right. Nice. But the Combo, which is just a phenomenal name for a deck.
Yeah.
But the Combo, I'm going to read it out, and then we'll toss it to JJ to talk about the deck for a minute, and we'll just sort of round robin it, and then we'll just move on, and we'll rank them at the end. Cool? All right, so the deck is Ant-Man, M'Baku, which is what got it put in the video, Nico, and Squirrel Girl. That's the ones, 4 ones, and you can tell by the fact that there's 4 ones that this is a Blue Marvel deck. Dazzler, Kyera, because Killmonger is a card, Shana, Khazar, and Blue Marvel. And then this is Mockingbird, and then the last 2 cards are what makes it cool and what made it make the list. Blink and Onslaught.
Yeah, if you want me to jump in, I just recently lost to this. Husky Puppies was playing it, and he got me so good with the Blink combo at the end, and I just sat there and looked at it. I was like, how did you not think about that?
Yeah, but, I mean, you expected probably a Gilgamesh.
It's awesome. You stack a lane with Khazar and Blue Marvel, and then you can pretty much know that you're going to get Onslaught if you have Blink and Mockingbird on the board. So you can blink your Shanana into Onslaught and just put out tons of power on it. So, weak to counters like Enchantress and the obvious things, but like it just puts up so much power so consistently that I think it's just a very solid cube getter, right? And that little trick there, the blink, I wasn't expecting that. It was really cool.
Newman.
Yeah, I like this. I watched KM trying this out on stream the other day, and it seems really strange, but it seems really, really fun at the same time. And that's a really entertaining use of M'Baku. But I love the zoo stuff, and I think if you're not running Kyra in the current zoo meta, that's weird. So I love it. I think it looks fun.
Yeah, I want to talk about like the big combo piece here, because it's not necessarily very apparent. But really what you're trying to do is use M'Baku and Blink on the last turn to turn M'Baku hopefully into, if it could be an Onslaught or really any of your big pieces. You get a surprise Khazar out there, Blue Marvel, anything like those. That's going to be big points on the field. But any of your 1-drops turning into a big card is awesome. And then you could, if you have a cheap enough Mockingbird, you can always blink and use your Mockingbird to know you're going to get Onslaught. So it's just got so much surprise there. And especially right now because of the with Gilgamesh being out, like that's what most people are fighting for. They think Gilgamesh is going to come out. So can I put enough power in the 2 other lanes, and your hope is that they're going to misjudge it.
So this deck benefits from a couple things, right? Like, first and foremost, someone said it. I think it was JJ. It could have been Newman. The facial hair distracted me. I was just staring. So one of you two definitely said it. But like, it's that you expect the Gilgamesh that makes this so strong, right? Like, you're like, haha, I can or can't beat that Gilgamesh. And then there is no Gilgamesh. There's like a bunch of wide power that you were not ready for. And that just beats you. And you like, this looks exactly like the damn Gilgamesh deck until that exact moment. Unless they randomly play M'Baku, which they probably shouldn't, because like if I see M'Baku, you're like, haha, butts combo. But like short of that, this is the exact same deck. It's a really, really, really great object lesson in how changing 2 cards can completely change deck. Yeah, because like this is a zoo deck, but it doesn't feel like the other zoo deck because it's got that blink on. The other thing I really want to say about this is I thought Blink was the most boring fucking card in the world. It was just a hella card for a while, and Blink is kind of awesome.
I don't think about it. Blink has been one of my favorite cards to come out in a long time. And I'm blinking goblins into Galactus and stuff like that, and having all kinds of fun with Blink. So, yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Any final the combo thoughts?
Yeah, one piece on
one
this I
thing
will say
about
is
this too-
I've been told that this deck can just have some weird draws where like it's just a non-gaming. Every deck has that, but there are some times where the pieces just don't end up lining up for you very well.
And I think even those draws, Gunny, I still respect Ultron.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that makes it hard to snap into this deck, unless you're sitting on a KM. But if they got their Kyara out, it still puts a ton of power on the board, right? And you got to figure out whether they're going to, onslaught on top of their blue Marvel Khazar or potentially Ultra on you, right? And then it just fills the board. It makes their Dazzler go up. There's like all these weird calculations. It makes their Ant-Man go up. So you can like bait with this too, and you can leave an Ant-Man and make your opponent think you're going to play Ultron. It's kind of a little bit of a chess thing that you can do with it as well. It's kind of cool.
You just spoke about something that I want to try to touch on for all of these decks, because none of these decks are meta decks. And you talked about baiting. And I think it's going to be an important thing that's going to carry over for a lot of the surprise factor of some of the decks we're going to talk about today, is that if you're playing something off meta, that gives you cube equity, right? Somebody's going to expect Gilgamesh. You don't do the Gilgamesh thing. You earn extra cubes because of that.
Yeah. It's a cube stealer for sure. GunnyT's Clog and Affliction. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to actually start with Gunny and then go to JJROLK back to it. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, so this is Nebula and Titania, White Widow, U.S. Agent, Green Goblin, Debris. So we've got the lovely Goblin / White Widow Titania combo, which is like one of my favorite things to do in Marvel Snap. Luke Cage and Polaris, Man-Thing, Stegron, which is interesting, Cannonball, and Dr. Octopus, the best Spider-Man.
Yeah. So this deck,
what say you?
Yeah, this deck has been working really well for me. Not only because Gilgamesh has come out, so a lot of people are playing like lots of cards onto the field early, but specifically the Cannonball is what I was kind of pointing at here. So you're kind of doing the same Professor X thing we were doing before, but you're doing that through Clog instead. And the Stegron buff is what really kind of puts us over the top. So you can very easily have one lane where it's Nebula, White Widow, Goblin, or Nebula, White Widow, Debris, and then Debris especially. If you play Debris far left and you played everything else to the far right, you can push that rock into the empty space, so then you've won a lane. And you also have a 4/7 in that lane. Coming back off top of that with a Cannonball or get your Affliction stuff out there. Really, it's just kind of taking advantage of, pushing your opponent's cards where you want them, then afflicting them the way you want to, using your U.S. Agent and your Luke Cage to add extra points in. It could do a lot of work. There is a lot of Clog in the meta right now in general, so that can kind of go against you some, but I don't know. It's been working really well. I've been climbing quite a bit with it.
JJ?
My turn now. Yeah, no, this is cool. It's interesting seeing a Doc Ock list without the Shang-Chi backup. I think that's the thing that stands out to me the most. But you're using Cannonball for that, right? You're going to fill that lane up, and then you're going to punch something into the other lane with your Debris and things like that. So this is cool. And as Pulse pointed out, the whole White Widow and then Goblin Titania trying to totally win a lane. I've seen that go off with Rafona, on like turn 2 or something like that. And, really cool things that this can do. Obviously, Luke is awesome here because you can put your U.S. Agent and your Man-Thing wherever you want. And again, it's cool because there's a lot of cards that you usually see paired up, and like Polaris, you usually see with maybe like Miles or something like that. But this is more so focused on doing one thing very well, as opposed to doing several things and having those 2-part combos. Doc Ock, Shang-Chi, Polaris, Miles, and it's I like that. I think decks that, I don't want to say over specialized, but very focused on having that kind of uniformity and playing off each other, as opposed to just having a couple good cards that go and make win games is really fun, really a great way to play Snap.
Newman.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like a deck that rewards you for thinking ahead and just outplaying your opponent completely. And I really, the point you made with Debris and Cannonball, where you can just clog up the left lane. Like, I don't know that I would ever be able to play Snap and think through that much stuff. but I really like that the more thought you put into like the plays with this deck, kind of the more you can screw over your opponent, which that's not very nice, but also I like it. It seems like a lot of fun, but my goodness, the thinking involved seems intense to me.
I think this deck is really cool. I have exactly one problem with the style of deck that I run into all the time. There's only one Luke Cage. And, like, you better see Luke for a lot of matchups, or this has a lot of trouble. I absolutely love this kind of deck. Ava, I think Ava's on next week. Ava Zord came up with a bunch of different variations on these that did not run Stack Run at Polaris. But, like, a whole, like, bunch of different variants on these. Right before the Leech meta. And, like, it was super fun, and when I played it, I was always like, yeah, kick everything's ass. But then some of the games you don't see Luke, and you're just like, no. Or they like Red Guardian or bullshit your Luke. And you're like, no, why do you do this to me? And there's like very little you can do. Not always, but sometimes. But otherwise, this is like super, super fun. I'm really, at the worst, super amused by Stegron in the deck. I want a good Stegron deck real bad. I have a hip Stegron. I gotta play it.
Knowing where that card's going off Stegron is so good now. Like, there's just cheeky things you can do with moving people's cards around. I mean, I've won games off of pulling someone's Titania, or sorry, their Athena and their Angela into the same lane. Like, those are two of their major cards. They're going to try to win them, and they could have that lane. That's fine. I'll clog out a different lane and use Cannonball to push their biggest piece somewhere else. Like, I don't know. Things can get a little cheeky. And I do agree with needing Luke Cage quite a bit, but in this deck, you can kind of play around it quite a bit. Just clogging and knowing. It's the same thing you're doing with Professor X. Like, when you know a lane is clogged, you can snap knowing you're going to win with a Cannonball.
Cannonball is good. Final thoughts?
I will say the killer of this deck, though, is Jeff and Nocturne and Kitty. Like, those are very popular cards right now. So if you're trying to lock out a lane, like, sometimes it's very difficult if they put a move card there. Hopefully you just get enough stuff to clog the board. Doc Ock is really great against Tribunal BS or anybody trying to do a combo. Just throw it into a big lane and watch them cry.
Other thoughts?
Now move on.
Okie dokie. Doc and Slayer. Reading this one out. This is JJROLK's deck, so we'll start with JJ, Newman, Gunny, me. So it will be Nico as the only one. Morbius, Ravona as the 2s. Dakin and Makkari as the 3s. This will not be Makkari's only appearance on today's list, which is just, wild. Dracula and Jubilee with Moon Girl. Then, a one-time appearer on today's list, Kang. MODOK, Zola, Apocalypse.
So I'm all in the camp of making Kang great. Any way I can play him, I want to try to make him a big bad and make him do things. I think we were talking before this, and I was actually playing it on ladder a little bit, and when you talk about cheeky wins, you can Zola a Dakin here and get some 32 powered Dakins across the board pretty easily, and do some wild stuff with it. So the deck is trying to be as consistent as possible. It still needs there's something that's missing that I want to figure out, but it can win cubes at high ladder, which is fun and cool.
America Chavez, old school.
You think Chavez? Okay.
Old Chavez.
Old Chavez. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so the reasons I want to play Makkari, right? And this deck needs hand space. So I don't want to just play a Black Cat and discard it for maybe 2+ on Morbius. I want something that's going to put some power on the board. Let me maybe get priority so I can Zola before they Red Guardian my Dracula or something like that. And it helps keeping priority, which is cool. And then the Kang has been surprisingly more useful than I would ever thought. Getting Ravona down, you can Kang on 4. And if you draw Kang, you play it on that turn and you actually get a redraw. So you don't lose a card in your hand. Which is kind of neat as well. And so you can steal cubes from some snapping with King. making bluffs and things like that. Yeah, it's really hard to even explain how the pieces all go together, but the whole point is get 2 Dakins, get a Dracula, split them, get some shards going, discard it all, and then just have some giant things appear at the last turn. So
this looks like a deck I would lose to. Like just not knowing what my opponent's doing. Like, well, that's not very big. Like 1 Dakin, like okay, whatever. I don't know. I would just lose to it.
Yeah, so you clear up your hand space, and you can even Moon Girl just your shards. You don't have to like Moon Girl your Draculas and get multiples, and you can Moon Girl your shards, and then discard it, and it really starts ramping up. And if you play with any power additives on the board and stuff, yeah, it's just I don't think it's the most powerful. I'll say that, but it sure is fun. I'll tell you that. So.
Newman.
Yeah, I mean, this one's hard to talk because there are so many little pieces going on and lots of weird things. I think the Kang in here is what I wouldn't really know what to do with. I have Kang. I don't know what information I would hope to get, but I really like the Moon Girl with shards idea a lot. I think that's really cool. Similar to Gunny, I could see myself getting my butt kicked by this multiple times, but it looks really, really fun. And then splitting Draculas, like that seems really entertaining as well, because that's another really confusing move. So I like this one quite a bit, and I'm glad to see Makkari in here. That's wonderful.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought me saying that I was going to get beat by this.
Oh, that was it. That's all you got.
That's what I got for it. I think Perry needs to take a look at this though. Perry Manilow would love this deck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Perry. That's where the Slayer is from. Perry had Vampire Slayer, which is fairly similar. I have 3 cards that I would consider in this list. I don't know what they'd be over. It'd probably have to be Kang or Nico. Nico seems good, but not like super important. Magic, because more turns mean more combo. Proxima, because just dropping 14 power seems powerful. And Killmonger, because fuck yo debris.
Yeah, so I've actually brewed with all of those, and I think Nico is probably the cut, and Kang just got slid into there. It's weird how most of Nico's spells really don't benefit you unless you get it on 2 and you get a double, and you get to get 2 Dakins in your hand, you get double shards going. I think that's a very, very spot on read there, Pulse. I tried the Killmonger, it just gets bloated, even though you can draw into it. That's kind of what the Jubilee, and you can even try to Zol on the Jubilee lane and get some weird stuff going on, and I totally agree with those thoughts. I haven't tried with the Magic. I usually try to stay away from that right now because there's so much Nocturne, right? And but if I can avoid it.
All right. On ready? Final thoughts? Let us move on to. Sorry, you just happen to be alphabetically next to each other. We've got Do You Want to Build a Sandman? And I'm going to read through this because
there's no Sandman in here. What?
You're not. You're building a Sandman.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you've got the Hood and Ebony Maw as your 1-drops. And then you've got White Widow, Jeff. And then you've got Electro and Viper, and that's your Build a Sandman. If you can figure out how to do that with Maw, you're also building a Sandman, but that's not the same thing, right? Although I guess you could, even if you did that on turn 5, right? Like, that's not totally terrible after a War Machine. It's not like you just basically played. I guess if you're giving them 7 power, probably not there. Whatever. Crossbones, as I talk through the deck as I'm listing cards. Sorry. War Machine, Crossbones. Then we've got Lady Deathstrike, yet more Blink, My Mortal Enemy, Cersei, and Infinite. JJ, take us away.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you already alluded to it. So, Electro is the core of this whole deck, right? It makes everything go. It's really cool. You can sneak out a win here or there without getting Electro, but you have 4 ways to take care of your Electro, right? Actually 5, 4.5, I'll say War Machine, right? Because you can Electro on 3, and then on turn 5, you can both Viper and Jeff which is a really cool combo. A lot of people don't see that coming. So you get to play 2 cards, keep all your tempo, and then you just completely lock them out sometimes, depending on what they are. You get Electro on their side of the board with no value. It's really powerful. Obviously, you can clear it with Lady Deathstrike on turn 4, right? With that, and if you play it on top of something that they have some value, like a Thana that might not went off, or an Angela that's still small, you can really, really surprise them and whack them with it. You can blink it. Everything is really good target above it. You can get a War Machine, you can get a Crossbones, you can get a Deathstrike, you can Cersei it. Usually, if I'm going to blink it, I will blink on top of the Electro so I can rip Cersei and then get a free 6-drop out of my blink, which is, I would love to keep a running tally of what's actually beneficial versus not beneficial at Glazer, because it's the most amazing card on the other side of the board, and on my side of the board, it just seems like a dud. But I think the real benefit in using Cersei is making sure you're not trying to upgrade a card, you're just trying to get rid of a bad effect, right? So like Hood is a bad effect, Electro is a bad effect, the Void is a bad effect, and that way you're not going to see this like, man, I turned my White Widow into a Venom that ate everything before it went, or Hood into a Carnage is awful, right? And it eats your Cersei, and you're sitting there looking at it before it even pops the other ones, and you're like, okay. So it's interesting. And then like the Hood isn't really in here to push something over, and it kind of confuses your opponents too when they see a Hood, and then you're gonna get an Electro down, and then you want to have a big War Machine on 5 so you can Infinite and Hood or a Demon or Ebony Maw. Don't run your Ebony Maw out. Do not play your Ebony Maw until turn 7 or turn 6 would be my advice to this deck.
Newman.
Yeah, I love the War Machine on 5 plays when you have Electro out. I think that's really freaking fun. And I think people can see that coming because that was a big deal for a little while. But it's such a fun play, and that's so much power. I did not understand the deck at first before it was explained. This just seemed very strange. This is super well thought out, and I really love... I hate it at the same time, but the Jeff Viper on turn 4 to get rid of Electro and just be a jerk to your opponent. That's so good. I love it. I might play this deck very soon. This looks really, really fun. Well done.
Yeah, it's not the most polite to your opponents, right? You're trying to is mitigating their fun type thing, but I like decks that can win against a bunch of different decks, right? So you can like even Tribunal stuff. LDS just shuts that down, right? So if they throw their Iron Man down, you're like, oh, I got him. I can snap into him, and stuff like that. So any kind of bounce or stuff that's avoiding, you throw Electro over there, and it really slows them down. And even Destroy, like if you put it away from their like X-23 and their Wolverine or Deadpool, they're like, oh, now I gotta decide which to kill here, and it really throws that tempo off.
But it has tech in it that doesn't necessarily like. It doesn't always work as tech, like getting rid of the Electro in a variety of ways. Like there's no real way to see that coming for the most part. So that's pretty tricky. I like that.
I like Lady Deathstrike here. How much equity are you finding out of Lady Deathstrike on turn 4?
I mean, I think it might be my biggest cube stealer. The LDS in here, because people will expect the blink, people expect the Cersei. They've kind of seen that already, but the LDS is really where it's at. And if you have a Jeff in that lane too, they don't expect it, so you just kind of move the Jeff early and then swat your Electro. But yeah, it's been great, and it's turn 3 is your biggest turn in this whole deck, trying to figure out where to put your Electro and whether you want to try to push it, what you have in your hand, or what you're going to draw into. And then hitting something with LDS is awesome. If it's not a good lane, you just blink or Cersei it, and then you can save that for later and kind of combo it in the last turn. If you have 1 extra energy, you can even save it for turn 7 and LDS and White Widow, which is pretty cool, because then you clear space up so your Widow is going to be a negative and do some cool stuff like that.
Yeah, and War Machine on 5, being able to play out 27 power with an Infinite and Ebony Maw that's a lot of power.
This deck is really cool. I think everything about it except Crossbones. I don't like Crossbones very much here. I think it's really hard, to get. If you're not playing the Maw, it can be difficult to be ahead enough to play it, I feel like. Like, I know it's there for the, like, later War Machine. I didn't draw Infinite thing. But, like, there's probably an easier way to do that doesn't have as much downside for you, even if it doesn't synergize with War Machine, right? Like, I feel like Magneto might just be, or Jubilee might just be better there. Outside of that, I love this deck. This is super cool. Also, I hate Crossbones because he works with Red Skull. So, yeah. But, like, outside of that, this deck is really, really great. This is super cool. If I hadn't sworn off Cersei forever, I would totally be putting this in my game right now.
Fair enough. Get that casual variant. Give her another chance. You know,
I bought all the casual variants. People were like, it's too expensive. I was like, oh yeah, too expensive. I didn't buy. Yeah,
I also bought them. Other than Gilgamesh, I liked him.
oh, but he's got a pie.
He does. He's adorable. But I didn't have variants for the other ones. I want to have variants for stuff.
I opened the Athena Spotlight because I needed that. Because Athena's like one of my favorite cards.
Heck yeah.
All right. Final thoughts?
I like it a lot.
Like a lot. All right. .Geo's Wolfhawk.
Woohoo.
I'm going to read this deck. We're going to talk about this deck, and then I'm going to give a controversy take, and you can have controversy takes too if you guys want, or you can be safe. Whatever makes you happy. I don't really give a shit. I'm not afraid of takes. My take is honestly more about decks than controversy. So we've got the Hood, Bast, Corrigan, Nico, which should immediately be like, oh, this is a bounce deck. Because it's got Beast in it. If that's the only bounce card, because then it's got Grandmaster and Shadow King with White Widow, Sage and Werewolf, Black Widow, and Darkhawk. So I'll go first since I put this deck forward. This is my favorite deck in Marvel Snap right now. I love it so very much. It is the ultimate jerk deck. You do not need Werewolf for this. I'm not 1,000. If I could run 13 cards, I might run 13 and just put Absorbing Man here, because Absorbing Man on Black Widow or Sage is incredible, and Absorbing Man on White Widow is really underrated. I think that this is just so fun and so powerful, and good luck to your opponent beating you as you're putting massive power on the board, and they lose 2 draws because you have Black Widowed and Grandmaster. You play the corners, you win a lot of games. It's beautiful. JJ?
Yeah, I think that's why Adam Warlock's so fairly statted, right? Because drawing cards is the most powerful effect in the game. So when you Black Widow him twice, it's like double Adam Warlock, you know. So no, this looks fun. I don't think I've seen this permutation of the Darkhawk bounce. I love putting Grandmaster in things. I think even like using your Beast, getting your cards down, and then Grandmastering your Beast is another way to pick up those 1-drops to play them all over again, which is kind of fun. So you load a left lane with your Hood, Korg, and Nico, then you Beast it, and then you get those all for 0. You put those in the middle, and then you Grandmaster that Beast and pick them all back up again. So it's kind of a fun, cheeky way to move that and do that kind of stuff. Sage, I wasn't sold on at first, and I've been a huge fanboy of her of late. Just massive power, especially if you can bounce or do something like that. I've always wanted to Grandmaster a Sage for a win, but I've never seen that to get that to work. Yeah, I mean your Darkhawk's just going to be massive, right? Interesting. It doesn't have Rock Slide though, right? Which is another
don't have the space
card. You expect to have those pieces together, right? And you're getting your supplementary power from Werewolf, and it doesn't have the Ravonna combo with Mystique either. But yeah, the Shadow King to me is the most interesting part of it, right? Because you're doing a lot with your changing your power, right? So you got to be very careful where you place your Shadow King, or more so where you place your cards with that buff power, planning on playing your Shadow King, right? Because you don't want to hit your Sage, obviously, or your Werewolf, or your Bastard Hood, right? And get -6 power there. So I think that would be the most tricky part, is playing the Shadow King appropriately. There's no Luke support here, so you got to really watch where you step with that.
I win a lot of games by having Werewolf in the lane I want a Shadow King, because that's where they're competing, right? And then I just play a 1 elsewhere, bump that out, and then I put the Shadow King. And then not only did they lose all their power, now my werewolf is back. And that's, by the way, 3 energy, so I can still Sage somewhere else. And then I just try and play Sage in a field lane. It's wonderful. Think of beauty. It's so fun.
I will say the most frustrating thing I found while playing this deck was that like it's got the C2 problem, or the Cerebro problem for me is like locations can really hinder you. Some decks play through locations well. Pretty much any like good card soup will play through locations pretty well, but you can really be limited on locations by not being able to play somewhere, or can't play your first card here this turn. Cards that locations can be rough with this deck.
Newman,
I also
this, right?
I was doing pretty well with it, and I went into a Conquest against a Saratech, and I got destroyed. Like there was no way. I did not win a single cube off that Saratech deck because the whole deck is just answers to this. Luckily, that deck's not very popular right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a video that came out on this deck today. I played it on stream yesterday, and I don't even know what to say about this. It's one of the most fun things I've played in a while. And so the rock slide not being in here is annoying, but you could play Korg 3 times throughout the course of the game if you do things correctly with Grandmaster and Beast. The Black Widow, it really messes things up. Black Widow Grandmaster is annoying, but picking up White Widow again and playing 2 Widow's Kisses or whatever they're called. This deck is so good. And even doing plays that look dumb, like basting the demon that's in your hand and playing it in the lane that you want to Shadow King later. Like there's lots of things that you can do to like confuse the person you're playing against and kind of make it look like you screwed up or something. It's really fun. I think the werewolf is cool. I found myself not playing it pretty frequently though. I wanted a good werewolf deck for a while, and I think werewolf and Darkhawk go together really, really well. And there's just something about this deck that made me really happy. So I think this is a really, really good one.
So I was laying in bed because it's 1,000 degrees in New York and playing Marvel Snap. And Gio sent me this, and I was like, well, let's try it. And I won either 7 or 8 games in a row. I can't remember the exact number, and I don't have anything to track shit on my phone. So I was like, oh, like whenever that happens, I'm like, I better get on a computer. I need stats. So my stats with this deck, once I got on the computer, are 11 and 3 plus 18 cubes. So that's 79% with more than a 1 cube average. And that's after the 7 and 0 for which I don't have, or 7. Let's just call it 7 for which I don't have stats. I'd like to play it again, but I have to test lots of decks for the channel. So I'm completely freaking in love. My first take was Werewolf on Sib Absorbman. We should cut Werewolf. And then there's games where you just don't see other big things, and Werewolf gives you wins you wouldn't otherwise get. Like if you don't see Darkhawk and Sage, but you do see Werewolf, you can still win with Werewolf and multiple demons. Whereas like at that point, having that Absorb Men is just a dead card. So like Werewolf is not a huge priority, and reasonably often, not all the time, but I'm playing Black Widow over him, especially when I have Grandmaster Beast in hand. But I don't know how to say how much I love this deck. This is everything I want to do in Marvel Snap, like in one deck. I've got control pieces, I've got hand control. Secret Sauce, Black Widow's bites work amazingly for Sage, because people aren't going to put 2 of them in one lane, and that's a negative 1 power, which is basically a +3 power for Sage, right? Because now that's there. Sage doesn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm 99.9% sure Sage just doesn't work on 0-cost cards.
I think it should, but I don't know. I haven't clocked it. I don't think
it does.
Yeah, because it just says other different other costs.
It'll count like an iron or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So I would swear I've seen it not like pump itself up for that, but I could easily be wrong. There could have just been 2 zeros there, and I'm seeing 2 zeros and being confused. But yeah, I think that this deck is amazing. Anyone have thoughts, or can I do controversy talk?
Well, I'll say that.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Newman, go.
I think Shadow King is like the sleeper like winner of this deck. Like it's the thing that steals the most cubes in my experience with it, because people expect a Shadow King could happen, but not in this type of deck. It doesn't feel correct for some reason. So Shadow King's a big deal. Save it for turn 6. You'll win a bunch of games. Sorry, Gunny, go for it.
I wonder if U.S. Agent might be a good replacement for a werewolf if you want to make the deck a little bit easier to play. It's big. I mean, you're only affecting one card in your deck.
It's reasonable. I thought this deck was going to fold to Killmonger, and it did not, and it made me very happy.
Yep.
Like, you're just like, oh god, I can move my werewolf more. Thank you.
Right.
It's really nice.
On turn
They're not
6.
Central Park squirrels.
Yeah. Like, whew, I wasn't going to have to not play that werewolf. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So, the controversy, quickly. Jeff Hoogland hates the Italian community. He mostly hates Atrix for what I understand is good reasons. I don't know if those reasons are true or not. I personally do not speak Italian and have not looked into it because there's enough problems in my backyard that I'm not going halfway around the world for someone I'm not going to interact with. If I'm going to interact with you, I will try and find out. But if it's someone I don't interact with at all, then let him be all the way over there, away from me. Hoogland and I don't interact either for various reasons, such as he blocked me like my first week of content creation, as you do. So I have no horse in that race. However, I am friends with a lot of the other Italian meta, including .geo. .geo posted this deck, and obviously English is .geo's second language, and he said this deck has insane stats. What .geo meant was I and Glazer have insane stats with this deck. The stats, so I don't know how this got to Hoogland, but Hoogland apparently on his stream went on a rant about he banned every Italian from his chat. Like, apparently the country of Italy is banned from Hoogland's chat and blocked by him, which is, much, but who am I? So he went on a rant. I don't know how this came to Hoogland's attention. He went on a rant about, like, this has like a 46% win rate overall in like 300 games. You saw my win rate. I just told it to you. Geo is one of the best players in the world and one of the best bounce players in the world. So his win rate is stupid as well. I don't have it memorized. I should, because I have to go on a podcast to talk about things, but whatever. Sometimes you don't get the information perfect and have it in your brain. But apparently Hoogland went on a rant about this, and Geo, because of the like general animosity between the two of them, went off on a Twitter rant. And I was like, messaged me out. I was like, hey man, you should probably calm down. This seems like it's not worth the trouble. And then he did and sent an apology tweet, and that was the end of it. But I have something to note about decks and stats that I think is like honestly ridiculously important. I watched the Power On Gaming tournament last night. And in that tournament, both Prashaun and Doug Pie played bounce decks. And they are stellar players. I've seen Doug Pie play no less than 1,000 games of Marvel Snap, and I've seen Prashaun play several hundred. They're excellent players. And as I watched them play, Safety and I kept being like, these aren't bounce players. That's not what you do here. That's not what you do here. These aren't bounce players. And we had a side conversation where it's just like, that you can't do that. And then Doug Pie messaged me. He's like, you roasted me in chat. I was like, Doug, you're not a bounce player. And like, I love Doug, right? Like, I love Doug. He's probably my most watched streamer. He's from the Bronx. Like, but he's not a bounce player. And like, if he took this deck, he'd have a real, like, without trying to be a dick, he'd have a real low win rate with it. It's not his deck. And like, there's certain decks, there's not many in Marvel Snap, right? You don't have to be a genius to play Zoo. But there's certain decks in Marvel Snap where if you don't know the play lines and like you're not practiced with it, you're going to do a bunch of weird shit that's going to cost you games and cubes. And while the stats on this are bad, my stats aren't. And I would argue that, like, while my stats being good don't overpower those other stats being bad don't mean my stats don't matter either. And there's more nuance and gray area in deck quality than we're often willing to give when looking at pure win rate. See, that wasn't too controversial, right?
No, that was well done.
Thank you. Because that was my, like, because, like, literally this controversy happening the day after I watched Doug Pie and Prashaun, and like being like, oh wait, no, you have to beast there, not there. What do you do? Like, it's you build muscle memory for decks, like especially complicated decks.
Yeah, I'd like to add quick. I think if I have an archetype that I've gotten really good at, I think Bounce is probably one of the better ones for me. But it takes time, and it has a really weird flow. And this deck does not look like it makes any sense like on the surface, other than that it's kind of mean, and you hope that they don't draw their cards, and you hope you fill up their deck with rocks and whatever. But it's a really like rewarding feeling deck to practice, because yes, you see lots of other people give it a shot and see a bad win rate. My win rate's not great. It's 57%. And I played 14 games like on my computer, but I played a bunch off as well. It's just, it's good. It's a fun deck. It just takes time to learn. I don't know. I think, yeah, Bounce is just a good time. Everyone go practice.
I had one game with this deck where I'm not a Bounce player either, so I did okay, probably around 50%. But I had one game where I did all this stuff. I was moving Werewolf around. I had a Darkhawk that was 12 power or something, whatever it was, and I played against an opponent who played one card a turn and just beat me with bigger points. And I was like, God, that felt bad. I did all this work for you to just go bigger points, bigger points win.
So thing that happens a lot with Bounce, like to the best Bounce players, is like, especially in Werewolf Bounce, you'll be like, oh fuck, I can't move Werewolf again. I need to figure out how to play my last turn so that Werewolf does not move. He can compete in that lane, but if Werewolf moves, I am immediately dead. And like, you're just like it takes like forever. Just like, and I've seen it happen to everyone, where they're just like, Werewolf is stuck in that left corner. And if I play a single on reveal at a place with space, that Werewolf is moving, I've lost that lane, and now I don't have another. And you're just like, shit. All right, time to spend every second of that timer figuring out how to sequence this exactly properly. But Sage. All right, any final deck thoughts?
Go play it.
All right. Next up is Snap Variants Makkari Surfer, and I wasn't going to do this, but I felt like JJ would really like it. This is another one that I've got pretty good stats with. I again decided to play this in bed because it is again 1,000,000 degrees. I got up and went to the computer and went 16-9, which is only comparatively to the last. That's 64% and plus 20 cubes. Double Surfer is fucking hilarious. I run Quinjet, not America Chavez, in my version, just for the record. But because sometimes you don't see Sarah, but you do see Moon Girl, and then I can still do all the things I want to do. But like, I won a game where I double, where it was Dream Dimension, and I got 2 Novas and Killmonger in Dream Dimension, and then I just played Surfer behind them, and it was like, ooh, that's like a 26 power freaking Sebastian Shaw. It was just. This deck is a blast. Moon Girl plus Makkari gives you hand space, and like, you only really want to double like a couple cards here, but like, you're not sad at doubling Brood. You're not sad at an extra Nocturne, right? And like, if you get Quinjet and Sarah out, that 1-cost Surfer and Nocturne is real nice. I love this list.
Moon Girl and Makkari is a cool little package.
Mm-hmm. It's real.
Yeah, the only thing with that is you gotta draw it, right? You gotta draw it on turn 4, and then it drops 2 Moon Girls or 2 Makkaris, which is cool. That's great.
Oh, right? No, that's not what I used.
I was meaning more of just getting it out of your hand early, so you have room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to double Makkari. I want to double other cards.
I thought exactly what you were thinking, though, JJ. I thought, oh, that's cool. 2 Makkaris, nice.
No way.
It's just really hard to manage hand space.
That's awesome.
With Moon Girl decks, right? Like, yeah, and especially in Surfer, which is for most of the early game playing 1 card a turn, right? So, like, how do you manage your hand space? Well, one of those cards just played itself without me having to do any energy. So now, like, when I Moon Girl, I'm more likely to have the thing I want in one of the spots I want. And you can Moon Girl on turn 5 perfectly fine with this list. Moon Girl and Quinjet on 5 is a perfectly viable play. You just played a Sarah, right? That's what you did.
Yeah.
Except you have 6 instead of 4.
And I think notably there's no Absman, right? Especially with you expressing your fondness for Absman earlier, right? Absman. And that, again, the combos like Brood and Absman, Forge, Brood, Absman are the standard crux of the Surfer deck, right? The Chavez versus the Quinjet, I think that's cool. I love Okoye in that spot for hitting a lot of these things. Trying to get a lot of use out of her. Even buffs your Makkari before it jumps on the board. But this has got, it's got Red Guardian is the most flexible tech card in the game, right? And it really helps to slot that in here. I like the idea of not just filling your board with tokens, and then maybe trying to drop a Mockingbird down, but having these more strategic pieces that you're putting down. Killmonger obviously can clean up a ton of zoo. That's kind of a tech card. It also is a beneficial card with the Nova and Red Guardian to hit, the Tribunal combo. Your Shaw is going to be massive, as you said, and then even Nocturne to take care of, the location lane changes. So you got like 3 really good pieces of tech in here, and then you have your accelerators to get your combo going into it.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add to this one. I think, like the Moon Girl stuff, that's in 2 decks, I think, from this podcast. That's a card that I don't ever play anymore, and I think it's really smart to have Quinjet Moon Girl in here just as a replacement for Sarah. I love that. I think, Glazer, you talked about having bad Cersei luck. I feel like if I have bad luck with something, it's freaking Red Guardian. And it's bad draws, and it's being outplayed by my opponent constantly. Like I never hit anything useful. I hit garbage all the time. And so if I don't know why, maybe I suck, but that card just drives me bananas. I hate it. So everyone else smacks me real good with it, and I can't hit anything to save my life. So I like the deck though. It looks cool.
Gunny.
I really just, that's the only piece I had to add was I really like the Makkari Moon Girl. Like that makes a whole lot of sense with Surfer. You have so many 3s in your hand that you're sometimes looking at it. And I've had times playing Surfer where I'm just unable to draw a card even. Or it's like, I need to play this Red Guardian now, not hitting something for any kind of real use because that's the card I need to get out of my hand just so I can draw another card. So Makkari seems like a great fit there.
All right, let us move on to Move. This is Gunny's Move. It is... Oh, did I read the last deck? Or did I just... Whatever. Too late now. I have no idea. Does anyone remember?
I don't remember.
All right, we're going to read that last deck quickly. Nova, Quinjet / America Chavez, Forge Brood, Surfer, Killmonger, Red Guardian, Makkari, Shaw, Nocturne, Moon Girl, and Sarah. Cool. Yep. All right. Next up, Move. Move runs 3 ones. It is Ghost Spider along with Iron Fist and Human Torch. Dagger and Kraven with Doctor Strange and Cloak. Vulture, Shang-Chi, Enchantress. Spider-Man 2099, and Heimdall. This deck has all of 1 Series 4 card in it. It is the cheapest deck we're going to talk about. They didn't put Ghost Spider down to 3, right?
Ghost Spider is it? No, I think it's still 4.
I will look that up. Let's talk about the deck, please.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is just basic.
I think you're right, but
I didn't have a spicy name for it. It's just Move, and Move will sometimes put down some big numbers, and it's sometimes hard to deal with that for your opponent, especially with these Angela Soup decks going on. Like they're kind of limited on the amount of numbers they could put down without a whole lot of real good answers for you. So I don't know. Like I've just won games. Your opponent doesn't know if you're going to Heimdall on turn 6 or not, so sometimes you just don't. Like I literally won a Conquest game because my opponent played Shang-Chi far right, waiting for my dagger to go over there, and it didn't. So I don't know. It's just big stats, and it's kind of consistently there. Even whenever you. So the one fall this deck does have though is there's only like 3 good move payoff cards here, being Human Torch, Vulture, and Dagger, and sometimes you just don't draw them, and that does not feel good.
Spider-Man 2099 is sitting there being like, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, Spider-Man is chopped
Feels
liver.
like it sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty cool. Sometimes, like, I did use on turn 6, I had priority, and I was able to Spider-Man 2099 and Ghost Spider to take out their Thena. They thought they were going to win a lane with. Move also, we talked about locations earlier, that, can get really messed. What was it? It was the bounce deck. I was talking about how locations can really screw you. Like locations can really help this deck too. There's plenty of locations that don't allow you to play in them, or they restrict what you can play in there. You can move things back to your hand after you play there. So like move just goes into those locations, and not only goes in there because people can move their Jeffs over there, their Nocturnes and whatnot, but it's very difficult to put over 10 power in those lanes sometimes, and this deck does it.
Cool. JJ.
Yeah, I definitely want to play this. I think I said earlier how sometimes I over-focus on having all the pieces for move in here. So I would like put a Falcon in here or something like that and try to pick up my Ghost Spider Torch, Iron Fist, and rerun that combo. Or I wouldn't put in Shang-Chi and Enchantress, right? Because there might be a couple games where you don't have targets for those. And I think those are the two pieces that
Hercules spot.
Together. Yeah, and I think honestly, I lost. I just lost to something very similar. I think it did have the Falcon in it, but it had an Enchantress in it. I was like, I haven't seen an Enchantress in 100 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually snapped into them, and then they just hit my lane with that, and I was like, oh, that's not a piece of the move package, and that's a really clever way to address certain concerns like that. So, and Spider-Man 2099 doesn't even have to move. His presence there, and like, for me, the fear of hitting, my big card in that lane, it's a 1-4 usually if you have a full lane, right? But it just seems like it's that Cersei thing that Pulse is talking about. Whenever it's moving against me, it's gonna whack my, my Red Hulk or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it's just it has that presence about it, which is kind of cool. I love the Strange. I haven't played much move since those changes, and making Strange a 2/3 can really do some cool stuff in here, right? I think it does require some thought of whether you want to try to utilize that Spider-Man 2099 or if you're going to try to pull your dagger and make it massive, because sometimes people forget, like if a monster comes out of Monster Metropolis, your Doctor Strange will pull that, right? And you got to be careful about that. It's not pulling your actual stuff. But yeah, I think it looks like all the solid pieces to move, and Kraven can just win a lane, right? If you have a Kraven in the left and you Heimdall everything into it, you can just flat out win a lane. And I'll definitely give this a run.
So I had the bounce package in here originally, and what I found was it just made what the deck was already doing like way better at winning like a lane. Like, sure, I can get a 32 power Human Torch, but how am I winning another lane? So with there only being 3 really good payoff cards, and Kraven obviously adding some extra power there, you need a way to win another lane, because normally you're focusing on one card, right? You're going to play an Iron Fist into a Vulture, and then you're going to Doctor Strange it somewhere else, and now you've got a lane 1. How do you win the next lane? Well, you're going to win the next lane off of your tech cards here, or maybe just making a small dagger with a Ghost Spider or something. So I found out with the bounce package, it was just I was focusing almost too much on one thing and not spreading myself around enough.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, if there's a archetype that I'm ill prepared to talk about its move, I can muddle my way through it, but I love the, as everyone else said, the Shang and Enchantress in here. Like it feels important, because the things that would kind of blow this deck up are the things that would ruin a bunch of decks, like Tribunal, a big freaking Red Hulk, like all of the normal things, and having a way to deal with that other than just Spider-Man 2099, which hopefully there's a buff at some point, but
he was buffed, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember. That was a really good one. They really did it there. But I just think a different way of dealing with problems, I think, is really important, and I think that this deck addresses that really well. But move hurts my head, so
without being bounced, like it hurts my head less.
So I'm only decent at it when it bounces. Like the second it starts bouncing, it makes sense to me. And when it doesn't bounce, my brain doesn't work. I'm no Timmy Trogdor. I can't play move well, which is crazy because like something changed in my brain. Because in Series 2, I played almost exclusively move. Like I played a ton of move. And then I got to Series 3 and I was like, okay, I played a little move, and then it took forever for Dagger to open for me, or whatever the card was that I wanted, right? And I was like, and then when I went back to play move, I was like, oh, I'm not good with this anymore. And I'm not good with this anymore. So, like, I can't play this. But it is really good. I'm pretty sure, like, move is a tier 1. Like, move is a tier 1 deck, but for fewer players than Bounce.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to do this, Pulse. I'm going to go back. I'm going to rebrew my move bounce deck, and it's got Werewolf in it, and it runs the Ghost Spider, Human Torch, Iron Fist package, and talk about trying to figure out that last turn when you got people moving like this, and your werewolf jumping and figuring things out. Yeah, so, it's a lot of fun.
So you know what playing move feels like to me? I don't know if you've ever played like games like Slay the Spire or various card games that have like infinite combos. Like, I can win those on a high level, but if it's an infinite combo and I need to think that far in advance for what to do, my brain just stops just short of that, and I'll be able to play like 17 cards a turn, but not able to make it infinite. And I'll be like, something's missing here. And then, like, I'm still, like, because they're single player games, so I'm still winning those, right? But, like, that thing that's missing loses me the game in Marvel Snap, whereas because other people are countering me and shit, which is just, I don't need that complication on top of my already heading. So, yeah, move.
2 pieces I'll pick out right here real quick is cloning bats. If you have, like, say, a vulture somewhere else and then you play a ghost spider, it will other way around. If you have Iron Fist and you move that vulture over, it procs after it has already gained its buff, which is pretty cool. And then this, if you like gambling, this is probably a cool deck for you, because it is a big cube winner and a big cube loser. If they Shadow King, are they going to Shadow King where your cards are at right now, where they expect them to move? Are you going to move them? Are you not going to move them? So it's just like, sometimes it's a gamble and it feels fun.
Oh, I'd also like it noted, one of my best archetypes is Silky Move, just not this move. Classic. Heimdall.
Yeah, it's just a classic.
Yep. Like Coca-Cola.
All right, what's next? We talked about move for a while.
Safety on the case. It is a Newman deck. You know how I can tell it's a Newman deck? Well, beyond that, it says by FaThorNewman on the screen. It is a Sandman deck. and it's made by the great Safety Blade, who I need to message when we're done. Thanks.
Real quick, before we go into the deck, Newman, is Sandman your most played, like, not Jeff card?
I would. Yes, before, like, it would have been when it was the regular ongoing effect. Nowadays, no, I don't know what it is anymore. Probably Beast at this point. Like, I've played so much freaking Bounce lately. But yeah, Sandman was my favorite. And it's just because I wasn't very good at the game, and I couldn't, like, figure out all of the plays the opponent was going to do. And so it just made it a little easier for my mind to comprehend what could happen if they can only play one card. So
that makes sense. Aaron, do you want to start by reading out the list?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Doing that is good. All right. We've got Nebula and Spider-Ham, Jeff, Lizard, Red Guardian, Makkari.
Woo!
No Electro anymore. So weird. I like, in my head, I keep getting ready to say Electro. Nocturne, Ms. and Captain Marvel, 2 of the Marvels, but couldn't figure out how to fit Spectrum in, so disappointed. Sandman, Doom, and Magneto. Newman, tell us about your pet deck.
Yeah, so I just wanted something that had Sandman to play, and I wanted something with Makkari. And Safety posted about this, and it made a strange amount of sense. And so Makkari being in here, Makkari could just be Electro. It could be a variety of different cards. I would say probably you'd have to throw Blink in here, or one of JJ's other mean ways of dealing with having Electro in here. But it flows strangely like a Sandman deck. You can use Makkari as like a build around. Hopefully if you get Makkari out on, I don't know, turn 1 through 3, it's a little bit easier, because then it can't mess up your Ms. Marvel. I think if there's a card in here that won a variety of games that I didn't expect, it was Captain Marvel. just really solid at the end of games, and the best freaking 6-drop in the game, at least in Sandman decks, is Magneto, because it ruins so much of what your opponent is trying to do. If they're kind of mid-rangey 3-4 drops, it just worked really well. My win rate with it was 64%. It just flowed. Spider Ham could be a million different things. I think that it's another way of messing up your opponent's hand, and same with Lizard. Kind of, I don't know, put whatever. I think I talked about wanting like Scarlet Witch in there as some sort of location control. Because
you have location control on
Quake.
Yeah, Nocturne as well. But I think Scarlet Witch just feels better to me. So, yeah, and again, Red Guardian's in here. Lots of terrible hits. Put in whatever you want. I think Red Guardian's supposed to work really well, but just not if you're me. So, and I don't even think you have to play Sandman all the time with this deck to win. I ended up doing pretty well in games when I didn't draw that too. So it was really solid, and probably just because I played Sandman so much, it kind of flowed. So, yeah.
I wonder if White Widow would be a good Lizard replacement too, especially if you're Sandmanning. They're expecting to fill up that lane in the last turn.
That's a good thought.
You know what card I want in here real bad? Claw.
Oh, yeah.
I love Claw for this kind of list. Like, they're like, all right, I'm going to do Doom math. And you're just like, Claw.
Right.
Like, oh, well, you see how I lost those 8 cubes? Yes, you did. Claw.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason I went back to that Dakin Slayer list was because Hella kind of took a little bit backseat, so Magneto wasn't getting as much play.
Mm-hmm.
I can't run my combos with that, with Dakin being a 3 and Dracula being a 4. And also Prof is kind of dead right now, right? So there's some uniqueness here where you can get your dooms off, right? This is probably got a lot more power going on, because it's not going to get locked down. You're not going to be able to get that value out of that widespread doom to trigger your Mrs. Marvel on both of the outside lanes, So
yeah,
I like that. Second, your Magneto is a very, very powerful card when played appropriately, and I think especially in this list, you got him locked down. It can really screw up that math, right?
Oh yeah.
Makkari also playing
third Makkari list,
right? Yeah.
Makkari seems really good in this list too, because this is kind of a 1 card a turn deck. Like, when are you going to slide in an extra card? You don't, right? So it's free power if you get it to drop out, especially in those early turns like you talked about, Newman. I would almost, like, if I didn't have Makkari in hand, I would almost play my 3-drop mid just to make sure that I'm not screwing it over.
100%.
Matters,
or get Nocturne out.
Though. Yeah.
Maybe
Makkari's
that's why
like
Red Guardian's missing. You're just playing it around Makkari as opposed to on your opponent's stuff.
Yep.
I'm just poking, Father. I'm just poking.
I like this list a lot. I would add Claw and play this.
What are you adding Claw for?
I mean, what am I adding Claw for?
No. What are you taking out?
Cutting? In all likelihood, Makkari.
Sandman. Makkari, okay.
What?
It might also be Spider-Ham. I don't like Spider-Ham very much.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I face a shit ton of Mobius. I keep being told Mobius isn't really in the meta, and like every second game is Mobius for me. So I am terrified of Spider-Ham.
Yeah, I think Spider-Ham's fine. I don't think it does enough, really. Like, you're going to play 1 card per turn, like you said. I usually love having my Sunspot in decks like this. It just doesn't fit in this one as well. So I guess Spider-Ham just screws up your opponent sometimes, maybe. Or you hit their Infinite and you give them a gigantic freaking pig. But whatever.
Really good against Thanos.
You know what it might be? Namora.
Yeah.
I can see it being Namora for this list.
Oh my goodness.
It's like a random 8 power Jeff and 10 power Nocturne that you can still then like Doom at the end.
I mean, even Captain Marvel.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, got some crap to mess with now. That's fun. I like that a lot.
This is a really powerful list. I like
Uh-huh.
it a lot. I like Captain Marvel. I want to play more Captain Marvel. It's basically what makes me like this list. I really enjoy that card.
Yeah, I mean, she was surprisingly good in this because you get enough cards down in the left and right lanes that it doesn't mess up Ms. Marvel if Captain Marvel has to move most of the time, unless you get like a crappy location. But I mean, I think Captain Marvel won me more games than any other card on here. Even Magneto didn't really help out all the time, but freaking Captain Marvel. Ooh, yeah.
There's got to be a deck that goes like Craven, Nocturne, Captain Marvel, Professor X. There's got to be a deck. I don't know what the finisher is the problem, but there's got to be a deck that does that.
Yeah, mess with it. I think the Namora, that's a really cool idea. Like, I like that a little too much now. So
I like Namora a lot. I'm a big Namora fan.
Yeah, just be careful with the Makkari. That's a little bit of a nombo with Namora, right? Because she can mess up where you want to play her and stuff like that when she jumps out.
You could always make
White Widow's a very real card too, so that's why I'm
White Widow is
Namora, right?
White Widow has gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right? You would think she would get worse after the Professor X nerf, but instead she's just gotten more valuable.
Yeah.
All right. It is time for the Gnome deck, and Newman is dancing.
Oh, man.
So, Pixie Thors, let me read it, and then you can tell people why you're dancing.
Okay.
It is Wasp and Yellow Jacket. Then we've got Nico, obviously Pixie, Mobius, Thor and Beta Ray, Blink and Jane Thor, Odin, Red Hulk, Magneto. So this is a Lockjaw deck without Lockjaw.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this deck. This is my favorite deck in the game. And it's after I pushed really hard to hit Infinite, I played, 91 games with a Woody Gilgamesh deck. I was so burnt out, like playing Zoo. I needed something else. And Gnome popped in chat and was like, you should try this deck. And I did. And I didn't understand why it was cool. And then I played it. And my win rate, again, it's not amazing. It's 62%. But my net cubes out of those 29 games that I did on my computer, it's plus 40 because people don't know what to expect on the final turn. So if your Pixie's awesome, and you get a 0-cost Red Hulk or a 0-cost Odin, and the 0-cost Odin feels so good, you can do so much on the final turn. And if you're Nico, if you can copy Mjolnir or Stormbreaker, or if you can copy literally anything, it feels so good. But even if your Pixie doesn't really hit anything good, if you have Thor or Beta Ray Bill in hand, sometimes that's just enough to win anyway. Because the double Mjolnir and Stormbreaker with Odin, it just wins games sometimes. I don't know why. I think KM had a deck that he talked about that had Doom in here over, I don't know if it was over Odin or whatever, but like Odin is probably one of the most helpful cards in winning it with this deck, just because you can pump up your Beta Ray Bill and Thor so much. Usually you could lose to a really mean Shang-Chi, but if your Pixie hits good stuff, you can lay a Red Hulk, Magneto, Odin, and then Mjolnir and Stormbreaker like final turn. Like there's some crazy nonsense that can happen. So it's very high rolly, but even if you don't high roll, you still have Blink, and you can blink your Jane Foster and try and hit, I don't know, Odin. Like there are just a lot of different play lines and different things that can happen that are good. Plus it has Mobius, which is great for you and screws over all of the Loki decks or whatever other people could be trying to do. And so the win rate for me is good, but the cubes, it's just super unexpected. And even when I looked this up, it did not have nearly as many games as the KM deck did. And I think this is a super solid list. So highly recommend it. Yeah.
JJ?
Yeah, I love this. This is really cool. I'm running through all the lines in my head right now. I love Pixie. Like, it's so much fun if you can get that Pixie and the Mobius combo. One thing that's really underrated too is if you can ever bounce your Pixie or Grandmaster your Pixie and you have Morbius, you always get the lower of those two. It's a really hidden tech that people don't realize. So as I'm looking here, I'm just looking like at the Magneto. That would probably be my cut or swap. Like, I think you lose to them putting Stormbreaker, Mjolnir, and Odin in it one time, and you're like, all right, that's enough. I got to sit on that from here on out in this deck list, right? So it's so powerful. And then I think I've seen something similar with a Wong in it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get your things and you don't have Odin, you can still drop a Wong, and then you could get a Nico ×2 on that Wong and drop some hammers on it, and do some interesting things. And it might actually lower some of your Pixie hits, right? Because you got 3 6s, and that's my biggest grief with Pixie is you can swap the same cost as you have. It doesn't actually always swap. It sometimes reassigns the same cost. I love it. I think it's really cool. I'm curious how Nico is best utilized. Like, what are the spells you're looking for, right? Are you looking for the draw 2 to try to draw on your hammers and stuff, or is that contingent on whether you have Jane Foster in hand? Excuse me. And what are you really looking for out of your Nico, right? And obviously, it still has the lane control if you really need that, and with having so many 0 costs, you can pop it when that spell comes up, which is kind of cool. I really like this. I think Captain Kurt ran something not exactly like this, but it beat me several times last season with a list like this. It's just really powerful when it pops, and it's not as finicky as running the Mr. Negative into Thor, right? You don't have to get that exact combo to still put out a ton of power. And I love the Red Hulk bluffs, right? So if you have Red Hulk going in your hand the entire time, and it doesn't show you whether it's been pixied or not, right? So they don't really know here if that's a 0 cost Red Hulk or if that's a 6 cost Red Hulk and what you're going to play on the last turn. I think one of the hidden things with Red Hulk is not playing it, right? We talked about this with Gilgamesh. You see the Gilgamesh build the entire time, and you're working out the math how to beat Gilgamesh being played. And then they just don't play their Red Hulk. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I just got Magneto and all my stuff got pulled over, whatever. This might be the top one I'll run immediately after this stream and see how this fares. And
Booyah.
So I get Nico, because, like, my first Nico goal is always Nico with a good spell into Pixie, because Pixie is a useless body. So if I can make Pixie a 2/3, I'm perfectly happy, right? But that'll often hold, right? Like, but if I can blow it up and draw 2 off Pixie immediately, right, or make it a 1/6, I'm perfectly happy. I never know exactly what to do with Blink in this list. It's like, there's not a ton of stuff I want to blink. I don't love blinking 0s, although that is a way to get Pixie. It's usually too late in the game to really want to do that. You can do it at the end of the game with some shenanigans. So Pixie always breaks my brain with this list. I played this a little bit. I wasn't as good with it as Newman was, but I think it is. I think it is a very cool list. I, in news that will shock no one, would make Pixie Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah, I think that's a big deal.
Not
is
Pixie,
like
Blink Werewolf by Night.
Yeah,
Pixie has to be on the list.
The deck it's strong enough without a lot of cards. Like, you don't even really need Pixie. It's really helpful, and it makes some things go crazy. Like, it's part of the I don't know, the identity of the deck or whatever. But it's strong enough that if you just have Thor on 3, Beta Ray Bill on 4, like, you can just walk your combo out most games. Like, it's totally fine. It's just the unexpected nonsense that can happen. I like Werewolf a lot, though, too. It's the back to the Cheerios type decks that BitTwiddle was all about for a while. I like that a lot.
So one of the things that gets me about any of the Thor decks is I lose them because I'm expecting a certain amount of power output, and then I'm surprised by how much they actually output, and I lose, right? You get that Odin down. The Pixie only adds to that by, dropping a very cheap Magneto or Red Hulk or Odin. Like, I don't know. Like this is the type of deck I would again lose to just because I'm expecting a certain and before, and I guess another piece of this is before that final turn, it doesn't look powerful.
Right.
If you didn't drop Jane Foster, then you're like, well, how much can they actually output? Like, what if they only buff one of these? Well, now you're buffing one of those, and you're also dropping a Red Hulk or a Magneto. Like the deck just goes crazy. Like that seems like there's tons of. I think the Pixie, what it's going to add here is to the games that you don't draw Jane Foster, right? You're going to surprise win just like you would if you use both the hammers. Surprise win the same way.
Yeah. And I want to just point this out too. We had oh, hey.
Hello.
What's up?
Nighttime. Yeah. I'm sorry. Not
attack
on the stream.
We are totally okay with that.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I had a big discussion with chat on stream once about how Pixie actually worked because it didn't make sense to me. And so the way that I explained it was you just throw all of the costs of the cards into a hat and it's randomly distributed to whatever's left in your deck. But it's all the costs from the beginning of like the game. It's not what's left in your deck. Yeah. It's just all of those things are randomized and then distributed. And so even playing Pixie, if you don't have a better play for turn 4, play Pixie on 4. And then Jane Foster, and you could hit something really, really good. It's not helpful if you get your Thors to a 0 cost or something like that for turn 6. But
it doesn't hurt.
Right. It's still power and it still costs 0. But it's I think that just don't give up on Pixie just because you don't see her on 2. She can do real good stuff even later in the game. But on 2 is important. So yeah. I love this deck so much.
All right. I think this might be our last deck.
Yep.
All right, cool. So, guest posted this, and I was like, this looks exactly like what I want to be playing. I'm going to read it to you. I want to tell you my stats. It's another lower sample, but this is what I played today. It is Kidian Nebula, Angela, Athena, White Widow, and Jeff, Ravonna. That low curve should sound real familiar to people who are in the last meta. Green Goblin, Sage, Debris, Absorbing Man, Cannonball. And so this is sort of doing what Gunny's deck was doing, where it clogs the board and then says Cannonball. But it's got like a million different plays. Like Absorbing Man can be Sage perfectly fine. Absorbing Man can be White Widow perfectly fine. Absorbing Man can be Cannonball, which no one ever expects and is completely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of power.
It could be Debris.
It could be Debris is what it usually is, right? Like your normal play pattern for Absorbing Man is just like if you don't see Athena, you're just like, all right, Angela or White Widow, Debris, Absorbing Man, go get effed, I win, right? Like in a zoo meta where that like I had someone play Shauna when I had that combo in hand. I was like, all right, well I win this, snap. So this list is a thing of beauty. I am 16-4 plus 34 cubes.
Nice.
So yeah, this list wins a lot. And like the losses were like 1 cubers, or like I lost a District X game and I lost a Weird World game, which are like okay, whatever. This feels like it might be a meta deck, and no one's noticed yet. It's weak to Surfer Killmonger. That's the only thing I've had real trouble with.
Yeah.
It does not like that match.
So I just saw this list as well, and because it's so close to what I was doing, I went ahead and downloaded it. I have yet to play with it, but it's pretty much doing the clog thing that I was doing in Clog and Affliction, except for it's just playing Angela Soup instead of the affliction stuff. So yeah, I mean it's obviously strong. Angela, Athena, Kitty Pryde. That's really good to be doing.
You spend a lot of time with like 1/7 Nebulas in this list too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be giving this one a try as well. I do really miss Luke Cage in this deck, though.
Why?
Because, I mean, just Athena and Angela are so, weak to Shadow Kings, and they're becoming more prevalent now.
They're not in the same lane. You take one out. That's fine.
Yeah.
can't live in fear forever.
Nope. I mean, it's just Cannonball is still a good card. I mean, clogging a lane and just winning it by. So here's one of the things that I think is really important about Clog. Clog allows you to win a lane by 3 points and know that you're going to win it, right? You lose a lot of games of Marble Snap by putting too many points in a lane, right? If you win a lane by 20 points, like, you got it. Cool. But where, those points didn't go elsewhere, so you're most likely losing that game unless you're putting 20 points in every lane. But that's one of the great things about Clog. If you can clog up a lane and you have it, you don't have to put any more resources there. You can focus elsewhere, and that's just a really powerful thing to do, especially if that lane has Athena in it or a Nebula in it that's just going to continue to grow. Like, no fear.
Yeah. I think Paul said this. Like, obviously, Killmonger's the bane of this list, right? It clears up all the space. It's really weak into death as well, right? Or destruction, but that's not as.
I've had less trouble with destruction than Surfer.
Okay.
Like, that's just a lot of that is just waiting a little later and playing my Clog. Like if I'm playing my Clog on turn 4 and 5, they have a harder time. Like, I'll just, like, if they drop a Deadpool, like, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not widowing on 2, right? I'm not debrising on 3. I'm doing those plays on turn 4 and 5, and now they don't really have space to get all that power out, and I feel safe.
Yeah.
Surfer just plays that Killmonger last turn, and I'm like, well, from second to last turn, fuck.
Yeah, and I'm curious, how does it fare against, like, that zoo list we looked at the beginning?
It's going to be the crap out of Zoo.
Clog
Cannonball
Zoo so bad.
Cannonball thinks Zoo is really cute.
Oh, I mean, they play out all of their chaff so early that whenever you clog them,
you clog everything, and then you're just
I've had
blowing
a game
up
locked out on turn 4. Like, I had a player quit because he had nowhere to play on turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just
after turn, I guess, on 5 and 6.
Like, the whole Onslaught thing is just not a problem, right? Like, it doesn't matter if it's Onslaught or Gilgamesh that the last play is for this list. Either one of those is perfectly fine to destroy, and then that changes the whole math of what the opponent was trying to do.
Yeah. You just cannonball their Dazzler or whatever.
And, like, they've got a Goblin in one spot. Like, even if it's a -2 Goblin, you're perfectly fine, right? And they're trying to fill that Widow location, so if you can, like, that's like a place that exactly how much power they're putting. It's not bad at all.
I did not.
Nebula's not the best card in that matchup, but it's fine.
I did not think about the Cannonball Absorbing Man, though. That is a sweet play.
So
think about this for a second. Cannonball, and then last turn, Absorbing Man Sage because you played Ravonna out. Like, that's big.
Disrespectful.
Also not bad. Absorbing Man White Widow, if their board isn't full.
Yeah,
it's real nice.
I think I've seen something, it might be a different deck entirely. I know we've talked about how just a few pieces. I think if you change more than 2 cards, it's a completely different deck, even if it has the Crux. But I've seen someone run something like this and then run Cannonball on 5, kill something, then Absman, and then Grandmaster. So you get 3 Cannonballs. So
Absman might be a cool addition to this deck. I don't know what for. Sorry. Grandmaster.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Grandmaster would be a cool addition to this deck.
The only really cuttable card is Nebula, and I think the replacement is probably Titania. If you're gonna,
I didn't think you can cut Jeff from this.
Oh, you cannot. You need something to take location space, like that can get out of your way.
Sure.
Like for the Angela type shit. Like otherwise, it's just Kitty for that. Like, you need to be able to be like, all right, so I've got Jeff in this location so I can play debris safely and not clog myself while clogging the opponent, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
right. It doesn't super care about opposing Jeff because you know where your opposing Jeff was played, right? But your Jeff is an extremely powerful tool for you.
Yeah, Athena could be a cut too.
Also,
I know Athena's good, but
you cannot cut Athena. Athena's like 14 power in this list all the fucking time. Athena's so good in this list. She's absurdly good in this list. Like, I would
don't know about that.
Athena just solos lands.
Athena kind of sucks if you don't have Kitty Pryde.
Has not been the case.
Okay.
Like, if Athena's key card is Ravonna, if anything.
Angela's better than
Ravonna.
Athena.
Oh, not at all. Not in this list. Not even close. Angela sucks if you don't see Kitty Pryde. Athena does not.
That is true. Angela does like that kitty pride.
Like, there are games where I just don't play Nebula because I'm like, I'm just going to keep triggering Athena. Like, it'll be perfectly fine.
I don't know. Grandmaster on Angela Lane would be pretty good too. Opening up a spot.
Yeah. I mean, sure. That's 2 power, and it's like an extra 2 power as opposed to Athena's plus 3
I'm just stuck on
every
3
turn.
cannonballs. That sounds ridiculous and awesome.
I mean, Nebula is your cut if you want to cut a card. Nebula is really good here.
Nebula's too good in Clogs, man.
Nebula might just want to beat Titania. Titania is so insane in this list. Like, Titania is utterly busted in this list. You've got the Titania White Widow and Titania Green Goblin with Ravonna plays going. Plus, you can then clog them further if they're like, I don't want to play there and get that pull. You're like, cool, Debris. Solve that for you.
So here's one thing I'll say about the difference between Stillballin and Clog Affliction is I feel like this deck needs to see certain pieces at certain times more, right? You need to get that Angela early. You got to get that Athena early. Whereas Affliction, you can play those cards late and they're still going to do their thing.
When you don't, what you're getting is Clog, right? Like, so
sure.
If you either see your Scalers or you see your Cloggers, and then you're winning because they can't get a lot of power out. Like, either way works perfectly.
I need to play the deck.
Yeah, you need to play the deck. Like, I've had 0 problems outside of Surfer, and like my I started just running from Surfer when they snapped on me. I was like, I know what you're doing. Bye. I think 3 of my 4 losses were Surfer, and 1 was District.
Ugh. Yeah, I have nothing to add to the conversation about this deck. This is not my style of thing. I'm not good at thinking ahead. And you talking about Titania and how useful she is, that freaking hurts my head. Like, I can never get Titania back to my side of the board. It drives me crazy. So I think that this is another deck that would be good for me to practice at some point. And Athena, I have no luck with Athena. Like, it's a 2/4 by the end of the game or something like it's a little card. So
one of the things I really love about Athena in this list, or in both of the lists really, is the top card is Cannonball, right? So it's a turn 6 play with Athena, or you're doing a turn 3 or 4 play with Widow and Titania, or your Green Goblin and Titania. And another awesome piece that I love about Titania is if you're playing into a lane that you're scared they're going to fill up. Let's say they've got 2 cards there already. You play your Titania, you play your Green Goblin there. If they've already filled it up, Titania still stays on your side.
Sure.
It doesn't move first, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the Ravonna, was that, I might have missed this part, was that get your turn 6 Absman Sage type thing? Or
I just play it on 2 basically no matter what. Being able to like have a 1 cost Athena, 1 cost Angela is insanely powerful. And that like plus Sage is just wild.
Mm-hmm.
A reasonable amount of the time I'm doing Sage and Absorb Man in 1 lane because I've locked up another. I was like, oh, that feels like it's probably 20 plus power.
You could also do like turn 3 Athena Green Goblin, Angela Green Goblin, something like that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not thinking about the Ravonna discount very well. I don't play Ravonna like at all. I refuse to with the prof stuff going on. So
I just didn't play it with prof. I was running Ravonna. My favorite deck in the past ages that wasn't a bounce deck was I had a Ravonna original 2/0 Grandmaster 4/0 Darkhawk deck that I love. That was just doing all the Widow shit and all that other shit in that shell, and I absolutely adored that deck. And then they killed it because Darkhawk had 3, and now Grandmaster has 2, and Ravonna doesn't do all the cool combos. But basically, I was either going Widow into Grandmaster on turn 4, or Rockslide into Grandmaster. I'm like, I feel like I probably win now, Snap.
No, I think this looks fun. It's not my style, I don't think.
Sure.
Yeah. Styles make fights.
What?
That's the thing people say.
Oh, man.
JJ, any final thoughts on this one?
I just keep looking at it, and I keep wanting to put Titania in there, like you said. Yeah. But yeah, it looks really good.
I think if I had to choose between the two, it would be Titania over Nebula. It's such a good play later compared to Nebula needing to get down early.
Yeah. Nebula tells them where to play, though, which is really good with White Widow and really good with your junk, right? Like, a lot of the power of Nebula, you do not have to have the baby muted. She is adorable. But, yeah, like, a lot of the power of Nebula isn't that she gets powerful, it's that she controls her opponent.
Yeah.
Like, if Nebula and White Widow are both out, like, you can sort of map out the game.
It's very true.
Yeah.
A lot of games of this deck are turn 1 Nebula, turn 2 White Widow, turn 3 Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
Or Debris.
Mm-hmm. Unless you have Ravonna. I play Ravonna over anything. There's no card I play over Ravonna.
Well, that's true. I don't have Ravonna in my Affliction deck, so Ravonna is awesome turn 2.
Like, I don't think I play anything over Ravonna on turn 3 either. Maybe like Thena and Kitty, and then I Ravonna and something else on turn 4. But like Ravonna is like priority for a whole 4 targets in the list.
Yeah.
It's just Angela and Thena aren't balanced if they cost. Like, they're not balanced well to begin with, but they're real not balanced when they cost 1.
Right.
All right. Time to rank them. I've got a separate slide to do this. All right, let's start with But the Combo versus Clog Affliction. And I'm going to show our dear viewers, But the Combo is the Zoo deck that runs Blink and Onslaught. And Clog and Affliction is Gunny's deck that runs Dr. Octopus and Cannonball with Stegra. Which of these two decks do you think, not against each other, in the meta, in the game, which of these two decks do you think is better?
I mean, I'm as the one that made the Clog deck, I'm going to say But's deck. It's just proven. Like, he's climbing on top infinite with it. So it's real good. My deck's just something that I genned up and I'm doing some climbing with and top, 2000 infinite.
Newman?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've played more Zoo, and I watched them play the combo deck, and it seems fun. It seems good, and it seems like it works strangely consistently for some reason. So I think I got to go for that one.
I also haven't played it. How consistent? You said it's really consistently doing its thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching on stream, I feel like they got weird pop-offs to happen constantly. So, yeah. And that might just be a symptom of like it's the end of the game and M'Baku just jumps out because you blinked it back in your deck. Like it's unexpected and it's weird, and it just seems like it works too consistently. I don't know.
It's a 5 power M'Baku sometimes, 6 power M'Baku, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of that hidden thing is the Shanna, right? If she's not throwing you a 0 and a blade and not bossing your hand and stuff like that. So when you see it work, it looks really good, right? There's a lot of thought that goes into it, when to play that card and when to evaluate. Like, my leftmost card is my critical card. That's my Mockingbird. I don't want to play that and get a blade and lose that. But yeah, I think I don't know. I want to go with the Clog and Affliction just because I kind of like that style a little better. I'm not big on the Zoo, but I've seen the power in this. And my question is: does it matter if it's ladder or if it's Conquest? Are we ranking them? What's that?
Ladder / tournament. I don't care about Conquest. I think tournaments are more important than.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think But the Combo is just really, really consistent, right? It's just really a good deck to get cubes with.
I would have had Clog first too, but I will bow to the wisdom of the crowd. And next up, we have Dockenslayer.
Well, we haven't gone through all the Clogs.
That's fair. Dockenslayer versus But the Combo and Clog Affliction. Is it of either, above neither?
I don't know. I'm going to go to JJ for this one. I haven't seen or played with this deck.
I mean, I really want to rank it up higher since it's got King in it, but I don't think it rises to that level. This is still a work in progress. I'll get back to you with some statistics and figure this one out. But it is more competitive than what it appears. I'll say that for sure. And really trying to get my Makkari value and have some fun with it. So
cube rate seems awesome on this deck.
The other ones.
Yeah. I think it would come down to consistency for this one, though. Like, you need some pieces to line up pretty well to make it happen. And with my luck, I would probably never get a good Zola hit ever due to locations or not drawing the cards that I want or need to make things happen. So I like this one way more. But I think the zoo stuff with where things are at right now, just because no one's running freaking Enchantress or whatever, I think that kind of kills it still. But this has the potential to be way more powerful, but you got to get the right hits.
So, because I'm thinking of ladder and tournaments, which, again, like, this just happens to be my podcast, and those are the modes I care about.
Hey.
So, but I think this is really good in Conquest. Where, like, you can just retreat, then they don't know what the fuck you're doing, and all of a sudden you're like, thank you for all your cubes, bye. Enjoy my 60 power Dawkins, go away. But, like, that's, like, in ladder, I can see 90% of players getting too frustrated to actually get that far.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because you can still do that. You can still lose 1-1-1-1 and get, like, the 8 billion cube wins with this list on in Conquest. Sorry, in ladder, but, like, it feels so much worse, right? Like, the mentality.
Right now, people are aggressive with their snaps, too. So with this, you got to kind of, like, piece it out, and then you're like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm going to draw into it. So that's the toughest thing, is even testing this. I'm right here, baby.
She needs a little help.
I played a lot of games I would have normally retreated in, just because I wanted to see how it felt, see how the draws were. People can bully you out with this list, right? You got to have that steadfast stay in for that extra cube, and then get the 8 cubes when you're actually hitting the whole shebang.
So currently in third place is this one. Then we're going to do you want to build a Sandman?
Oh man, this is so hard to rate too. It's such a cool deck.
Is it crazy that I think this is number 2? Like, I don't think this is as good as
I'll definitely advocate for this one. This is one that I can play and do some really cool stuff with consistently against a lot of these lists. And I like where this one is at right now. It's kind of fun. It's using some of the new pieces, and I think it's definitely more powerful or more consistent than the Dokken list. And I think this one is you said sleeper picks. I think this is definitely a sleeper pick. If you start playing it, you can cube consistently. Like, when I was losing cubes testing the Dokken one, I went and played this one and grinded back up the top 100. So, like, I'm in on this one.
Yeah, I can see this being 2.
Yeah, this looks more fun to me than Butts deck. But I don't know consistency wise how this goes. I've just never played it, but I will probably tomorrow or Saturday.
And then check Newman's YouTube, because
please do.
There will be a video on it.
Oh, there will be.
All right. Yeah, I really like this list a lot. If Cersei wasn't my mortal enemy, I'd be all about this list. All right, .geo's Wolfhawk. I don't know how to rate this.
I don't know. Like, this is number 1 for .geo, and
I would
2% of the player base, and
I would beat the piss out of anything but I would beat the piss out of Electro. Anything but the Electro or Sandman list with this.
Yeah,
I couldn't beat the Electro and Sandman list, but I think I could beat everything else with it.
I mean, for someone who understands bounce and plays bounce, I think that this definitely beats Butts deck.
It destroys Butts deck.
Like, super
Butts
bad.
Deck doesn't get nearly tall enough for this.
No, but that depends on if you have the skills.
Yeah. Butts deck also likes drawing cards, and when it can't draw cards, it gets really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I would put this above that. Like, I would put this at number 1, but that is with practice, right? Like, I know how the deck is supposed to run. So I think it depends on your ability and understanding of bounce where this would actually fall.
All right. Gunny, where do you think it goes?
Number 3.
Okay, that was quick. JJ?
I actually agree with Gunny on this. I think it's a good list. I just don't think it's as powerful. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right.
I'm really pulling it down just a little bit because of the how difficult the deck is to play. Right hands, I'm sure it's number one.
Yep.
Makkari Surfer. All right. This is gotta be below the .geo deck. Below the .geo deck are Clog and Affliction and Dock and Slayer. Is it above Clog and Affliction or Dock and Slayer?
Probably above the Clog and Affliction. I don't. The deck's I built it. I love it, but it's okay. It's not the best thing. It's
Fair enough.
I don't know.
It's a passion project.
Here's my favorite. So here's my favorite thing about the Clog and Affliction deck is you almost know going into turn 6 like if you're going to win or not, and it's the same thing that the Professor X decks had to it, and that either like people aren't expecting. The only time I get big cubes is when people just forget Cannonball exists. Other than that, they're either going to retreat.
A lot though.
I snap into it right, and I get my 2 cubes, or I win 8. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the knowing when you need to retreat is what makes that deck good. Right. Anyways, I think this goes above Clog and Affliction.
I can live with that. JJ, anything to add about that one?
I'm on board. Yeah, I haven't played this one enough to see how tall it gets.
So it depends. Do you TC to surfers or not?
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm good with that. Above Clog and Affliction.
Is there? Yeah, I know it's just in my head, but I feel like I always draw Surfer last turn or not at all.
Yep.
Like Surfer loves turning up last turn. It's ridiculous. All right. So this would be in last place for me, but I know that's wrong because I could not win this list.
I'm in the same exact boat.
So it should probably be somewhere around the Wolfhawk because it's the same concept.
I don't think so. I think it's last.
Really?
It's not that great. It's just move. It's a sleeper deck. I mean, let's face it. I win cubes with it, and it's okay. But it's just move, man.
But just move is really powerful.
Sure. I like this deck. This is the deck that I play. So I know you guys have heard me talking about my all-in tournaments that I'm running. If you're not familiar, it's basically it takes the snap out of it, and you just play all in for 2 games in a row. And what I do is I just have a laundry list of decks, and I click a new deck each game. This is one that's in my ringer just because it's fun to play move stuff. I don't know. It wins games sometimes, but it's also, I think you pointed out earlier, it's very cheap. It's a cool, fun deck that'll win some games.
All right. Okay, I can leave it in last, I guess. Any argument?
I don't know where it goes.
I mean, it has Enchantress. I feel like it can't be last. It has some sort of counters, so I feel like that's a good thing. But I don't know. All
right, JJ, is it better than your Dokken Slayer?
If we were head to head, I think my Dokken list would beat this. So I'll. I don't know if that's fair to do, but yeah, give my Dokken list a little love. It's not
that. Could be last.
All right, just don't want Dokken to be higher. Yeah, I get that. Safety on the case. Sandman time. Boop, boop. Where's it go?
I guess this is going to be for you, Father, but I'm thinking last. I know you said you've been winning a lot of cubes with it, but I don't think it's quite there yet. You add in that Namora, we do some other change for Spider-Ham, maybe this goes up further.
Sure. This is not the deck that I'm going to argue about. Just a heads up. I think this deck is. I think this is good. I think that this works really well. I was very surprised by Makkari. And when you talk about sleeper decks, which was the goal, there were 34 total games on Untapped for this deck altogether. And that's pretty sleepy right there. That's pretty small. Yeah. And I think that the way that it wins, it beats a lot of different decks. But it does feel like it's down to RNG a lot of the time. I mean, based on where Makkari goes, based on what your opponent's playing, based on Red Guardian, based on a lot of stuff. So I think that it can stop a lot of big meta decks right now just because it's Sandman, but it can also lose pretty easily. So I don't think it needs to be last, but I know that the Dokken deck would probably beat this one too. So that's all right.
I don't really care if we put it above or below move.
I think I would say this is in my book probably around the same power as Move.
Yeah, okay. I like Move more than you, but that's fine. All right. Is Pixie Thor's number one?
Now this is what I was waiting for.
I vote yes.
I'm excited for this deck. I want number one. I want it number one right now until we get to another deck.
Well, there's only one deck left, so spoiler.
But I think the consistency with getting Beta Ray Bill up to 24 power, it happens very frequently. The randomness of Pixie makes final turn plays very strange and unpredictable. Like this,
That's
works on a ton of different levels.
I'm just picking on the Pixie piece. Like, God, you talking about before, knowing if you're going to win turn 6 with those clog decks. Like, this is one of those decks where you Jane Foster, and you know you're going to win, or at least you have a very good idea if this 0 cost Magneto is going to win you the game.
Yep.
And your opponent has no idea.
Right. And you sometimes don't have any idea until turn 6. And that's the other piece too, is like if you have Pixie Mobius in hand by turns 2 and 3, just snap, because you never know what could happen. Because it stays small until the very end of the game, and then it freaking explodes, and it's wonderful. Yeah.
What do you think, JJ? What do you think about this first Zoo?
Yeah, phrasing, Father. What was that, Pulse? I missed it.
What do you think? Are you vetoing this being number one? Are you okay with this being number one?
Yeah, no, I think it's extremely powerful. I think it's fine being number one. Again, Magneto still doesn't sit right with me for some reason, but everything else I really like in this, and definitely put out a lot of power.
You know what Magneto should be?
Awesome. I'm good with it being tops.
Your deck should run Claw.
The Claw.
So good. No one ever plays around Claw.
No,
like Claw was meta for a while, and people still wouldn't play around. They'd be like, "You know, Claw's in this deck. Like this is a famous deck. Whatever." Oh, thanks for the cubes. All right. So still Ballin is number one according to Gunny.
I like it, man. I think this is a real contender. Like this looks good. I need to play it, but I have been having so much fun with my clog deck, and this shores up some of the things that I think were weak in that clog deck, which is sometimes you clog a lane and then you have difficulty winning another lane.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this doesn't have that problem. Like Sage and Absorbing Man will win a lane, like 80% of the time.
Yeah,
and you can do both of those in one lane, in more than one lane too, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned it too. Like if the problem that I'll have with my Affliction deck is sometimes I draw the Affliction pieces and none of the clog pieces, and they kind of need to go hand in hand. This deck just sometimes draws all of the Angela Soup, and then clogs later, or does your, I don't know. It just looks good.
So it also just works perfectly fine if you draw like a mix. Like Angela's perfectly fine, but you dropping a goblin on her.
Yep, dropping a goblin, dropping a Jeff there. Mm-hmm. Doing stuff. And then thinking later turns, the Absorbing Man has so much utility. Talked about double cannonball, Sage, Absorbing Man combo with Ravonna out. Like that's just a ton of power to put around. And then so we talked about Clog being such a killer whenever you lock out a lane. You don't necessarily even have to lock out a lane. Like sometimes just putting a couple rocks down, or some Widow's Bites, like limiting what they can play there, it just allows you to go so far as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion. This is not my style of deck.
It's like a bunch of cards you hate.
Yeah, and it was my problem with like OG Galactus, OG Spider-Man. Like I don't want to ruin the opponent's ability to play the game. That's why I hate Mill too, right? Like, I don't want that. I want to have fun. That's not really that fun for me. I'm not saying that you're a monster if you play it, but, and it's probably good. Like these types of decks work well. I just don't like it. So
you're not a monster, but you woke up one morning in the shape of a giant insect. All right. JJ.
Something's not sitting right. I thought Sandman was his number one played card.
Yeah, but that's not that impressive.
Sandman doesn't even beat this. This deck does not.
No, absolutely not.
Like, what does this care about Sandman? It's like, oh, you can play one card and I can play one card.
Right? Yeah.
How will I do this?
Spider-Man stuff. Sandman, 1 card per turn, guys.
It's not that mean. It's a little mean, but
it's a little meme.
Yeah, no, this has been the hardest part of this whole cast for me, is like ranking these decks, because I think the game is so fluid right now, and I'm seeing a ton of Surfer right now, so it's hard for me, like you said, to rank this really high at my play rate. So yeah, Clog is really powerful. I haven't played with Cannonball like this. I'd like to give it a go. I don't know if this beats I don't know if this beats the Pixie deck. So I kind of like that staying at top. It just goes way vertical, and then you gotta pick which lane you're gonna hit with your Cannonball if you're not double cannonballing and stuff. I like this being slightly below that. So
okay, I like having Pixie number 1. Yeah, it needs to clog the board to beat the Pixie deck. Like if the Pixie deck can't play like Odin and a Hammer in the same lane, right? But like outside of that, yeah, that makes sense. All right. So our top 10 list, and then we will move on because this one went way longer than I thought it would. 10, Safety Sandman. Sorry, Safety. 9, Move by GunnyT. He does not like that deck. I don't know why he submitted it.
I like the deck. It's good. It's
right.
not as good as
he didn't like either of his decks.
Maybe it's a spice thing. I don't know.
7, Clog and Affliction from GunnyT. 6, Makkari Surfer from Snap Variants. 5, Geo's Wolfhawk, which can be number 1 if you're good with it. 4, Do You Want to Build a Sandman? Also winner of the second award of Best Title for a Deck, JJROLK. 3, But the Combo. 2, Still Ballin'. And 1, Pixie Thors. No. All right. I am satisfied with that. Now we have to go to card of the variant of the week, Surfer, because this is secretly a Surfer meta. No one's telling you that, and I don't know why, dear listeners. But like, no one says it's a Surfer meta, but this is totally a Surfer meta. Am I insane?
No.
Like, all right. So, Newman and I picked the same variant. This is the scan. Newman, tell me what you think about it.
I just like it. I think that it feels the most surfery, other than the one that's all the way on the right, which is a literal surfer. But I feel like it just embodies the card well. And it flows right. What is it? The Planet Hulk one. I don't remember what the name was for it. I really like the idea of Surfer being kind of different, or I don't know, just looking a bit different. It just never, I don't know. The one on the left feels more pure, and I like it a lot.
I like the colors on the scan one as much as anything else. I like that, like, it feels like the light is hitting him at the right angle from behind. I have a gold Surfer that I just like switch around what variant I use on, and this is the one that I think it looks the best. So I like this one a lot. Like, I just think it's really cool. I wish the surfboard were a little more prominent, but that's the only like very small one. All right. Who likes the Chariot?
That was me. I put the Chariot as my favorite. I think some of the tarots are really cool. I have the full deck, and I haven't split them at all, even though it doesn't matter anymore. But I think, like, I don't know, it's just really cool how they use the actual tarot thing and, subtitle it with the Chariot, and didn't have to just make something up like the other ones. And I don't know, it's a cool effect when the card is got some crackle and stuff going on. It really makes it pop and do some things, and even the depth of it is pretty cool when it's animated. So I like the OG colors, and then I like a little bit what it does when it starts getting some of the fun effects on it as well.
And then the one coming out on the 4th of July, the summer vacation variant is Gunny's pick, who is wearing shorts, although he has neither genitalia nor anus.
The surfer variant, like the summer vacation one, is it's just so much fun. I love this variant a lot. Tell me, as you're looking at these three, my eye keeps getting drawn over to the far right here. Like, it's just a good pose. It's very action packed. See the wave crashing in the background. Like, I don't know. It strikes with me as a surfer myself. So yeah.
All right. We are on to our very last segment, JJROLK. If our viewers decide to become your viewers, what would they find in your content?
Oh, they're gonna get a lot of hair flips for sure. You already know that. No, that's my whole joke is come for the hair flips, stay for the gameplay. Yeah, we're top 100 right now. We're doing things. We definitely play off meta decks. I know a lot of people say that, but we bring Dokken lists and Makkari stuff, and we really like to push the envelope in that. Another one of our taglines: we like to play sub-optimal decks optimally. We're all about having a positive vibe, but we're competitive. Like we get upset when we make mistakes and things like that. So you're gonna see someone trying to stay as positive as possible, but really trying hard to do good shit and have a really, really fun time on the stream.
So this topic for JJ wasn't an accident. I don't know another top 100 player who plays like it, who plays the same off-meta decks, the same weird stuff all the time. And, like, to do that in top 100, just, is fucking hard. Like, this is very clearly, he's flipping his hair at me. This is very clearly one of the best players in the world, because, like, I mean, he would be bored to tears if he played a meta deck, but he would very obviously be in, like, the top 5, right? Because playing, well, quite honestly, even, like, in the sleeper deck realm wasn't in the top of the sleeper deck realm to top 100 is absurd. This is one of the best players in the world. You should 100% be following him. Because, like, while watching great gameplay is fun, watching great gameplay with the same decks for the, like, 3 months straight bores the shit out of me, and watching great gameplay with really fun, cool stuff, and of course, gorgeous hair flips, is wonderful, and you should follow JJ.
Yeah, my heart sell for JJ is
very humbled by that, but thank you.
One of my favorite things that JJ does is it comes down, I see it mostly on turn 6, but sometimes it'll be earlier, turn 5 or something like that, especially if someone snaps or something. But he always talks through what he's expecting the opponent to do. And most of the time he's right. Like he's like, all right, hey, they're going to do X over here, so we need to do Y over here, blah, 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 snap back, get those cubes. And whenever he loses, talk about maintaining that positive vibe, you can kind of see him, he's just like, he talks about it like, oh man, I remember specifically there was a player that made a very bad play, and he was just like, why this, if this player was a good, like, had played what they were supposed to do, I would have won this game. But he always talks about, like, analyzes. So if you want to get better, like you could watch JJ and he'll talk you through. Most of the time he's in the top 100, so he's playing against meta decks. So if you want to find out how to beat those decks, what to expect out of those decks, watch JJ, because he's going to tell you exactly how to do it.
Newman, why do we follow you?
I don't know. I don't really. I'm never going to be a top 100 player. I think for me, the thing that I find the most fun is the growth that I've seen in myself over the last while. I will play kind of everything, but generally each season I find some sort of deck that clicks with me, and then I just get really good at that deck. So Bounce was one of those at some point, and the Pixie Thors is mine right now. But I do the stream team stuff, and my pitch for that is maybe not the best one, but there's a lot of different decks that people try out, and you get a Hoagland video or whoever, and they're really good at the game already because they practice the deck or they just know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I am trying out decks for the first time live to show whether it is something that is easy to pick up, difficult, if it's powerful from the get-go, or if there's a lot of different lines that you need to know. And I do my best to keep things positive. I do my best to have fun. But if you catch me live, it's, I don't know, you might get good plays. You might get crazy ADD day. Who knows? But I do my darndest to improve and listen and grow in whatever I do. I also I just got a Discord, which is really exciting too, if you like Discord. So feel free to come and hang out there. But I don't do this to get famous or make tons of money. I do it to have something cool to share with my kids someday in the future. And I'm enjoying Marvel Snap right now. So, booyah.
Can I take the first part of the hard sell here? I'm going to steal it from you, Glazer.
I just have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Who doesn't need a 10,001st Discord?
Right?
None of us have enough Discords to be in.
That's
what
exactly
are you
how I felt when people made me get one. It was great. Oh, well.
All right, so my hard sell for Newman is one of my other favorite YouTubers that I watch is Regis. And Regis, I watch him because he's just so happy and like it's just you watch him play and it's just a joy. You can see the joy he's having. And Newman, you do the same thing, man. Like you're playing these new decks, and then a lot of times, like you're saying, you're not practicing a whole bunch of things. So if something's popping off for you, like I imagine, I didn't catch your YouTube video for the Pixie deck, but the first time you played it, I'm just imagining your face, like you're just laughing and like you are thoroughly enjoying the game, and that is a really unique part about your channel as well.
I have a wonderful giggle for sure.
Yeah,
it's infectious.
Like happens, especially if like like a ridiculous play comes, or I don't know. You just like kind of I don't know. It seems like it'd be fun to just hang out while you're playing the game.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I mean, that's what his Twitch stream is, right? Like his Twitch stream is literally just hanging out with him. It's the cheers of Twitch streams in Marvel Snap. Right, like he just sings the theme song to everybody as they enter.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to go, and he knows everyone's name. He remembers everybody. He visits everybody. It's super warm, super friendly. It's delightful, and you should totally check him out. Plus, you can watch the decks from the videos get played. I don't know why you'd want to do that. My turn-by-turns are so fucking all you need. But if you want more, Newman is the icing and the cherry, and even a bit of a happy ending.
Oh my god, phrasing.
All right. What, if we're doing phrasing, I'm doing phrasing. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks at the end of each and every episode. I'm going to fly through this because, as always, I still have to do another fucking 25 to 40-minute video after this.
Gosh.
So, I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Gieslam, Editor Burnout, Cables, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, hey, lost my spot because I pointed at you. Good Dog Gamer, This Is the Way, Inc., I Am Frostman, Jane Everett, Doomer, Caretix Lee, Koi Ray, Pyrofros, The Goat Seeker, my cat is mad at me, Denman, Falcon, Doc D, Batnik, Doku, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, Exorcy and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, the winner of Snap Judgment League Season 1, The King of Bros, Talak Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Ryan Wood, Jessica Gamble, Kev Hoda, Lunacris, Louis Antunes, Models, The Mod Supreme, Darth Tater, Remus Atala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B., The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrum X, Matt H., Mikey Hijinks, NoFlex, Ocularis, Craig Sterry, Pretty Chill, Seamus, who's all caught up, Jonesy, Two Ties, The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homie Man, and of course GunnyT, where what the hell does the T stand for, GunnyT?
T stands for stay tuned, because we're going to be announcing Season 3 of the Snap Judgments League very soon.
Ugh, advertising. Can't get away from it. Peace.